Okay, Tammy, the recording started.
Okay, welcome everybody. Happy New Year. It's January. Welcome to the Tuesday, January 26th, Community Board 1 full board meeting. I am Tammy Meltzer, Chair of CB1, joined with my esteemed colleagues who are all with me. We have sent out some notifications via the newsletter and on our website about our new policies for how we're going to organize and structure the board meeting. So for the public session, for all those who have signed up before 6 p.m., thank you very much. You will all be able to speak tonight. Everybody will get 2 minutes. I can be a little bit gentle on this because we only have 7 people signed up to talk. So that actually will be lovely. Alrighty, so with that note, Lucy, let's get that started and I'll give the order. We're going to do, let's make sure everybody's here and ready. It'll be Diane Stein, then Cheryl Fish, and then Barbara. And Barbara, I'm really sorry if I'm gonna kill your last name. I think it's Fushil. Alrighty. And so with that, let's unmute Diane Stein. Diane, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, ready to roll.
Okay. My name is Diane Stein. I live in Independence Plaza, and I'm opposed to granting a beer and wine license to Cocoon because I have some concerns. One is that PS 150 is still located in Independence Plaza, and although it was scheduled to be relocated, I'm not sure if it will be able to do so before this license has been granted. I am also concerned that it would be easier for them to get a full liquor license once they have a beer and wine license. My main concern is that they said they will only serve alcohol to members, yet the SLA will only grant on-premises licenses to establishments that are open to the public. Then does that mean anybody can become a member, or do they have to be parents or parents to be? This could be a problematic situation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Diane. No problem. Next up will be Cheryl J. Fish, and Cheryl is in the public session, so if we could have her unmuted.
Tammy, I don't see that name in the attendees list. Cheryl.
Could she be calling in?
Is Cheryl or Gerald? No.
Cheryl J. Fish. So I'm not sure.
I can't mute one of the call-in numbers and ask.
There's a Barbara Fushil who's signed on.
Yep. So we can go to Barbara, and then if Lucian behind the scenes, you can check who the call-in user is. That would be really helpful. And there are 2 call-in users.
Hi, Barbara. You're unmuted whenever you're ready to speak.
All right. Yes. Hello. How is everybody today? Happy New Year. God bless. Be safe. I've been a tenant at Independence Plaza now for 46 years. And to have this Cocoon now in our establishment in this neighborhood is a wonderful thing. But I don't see a bar, a place that obviously is going to serve drinks and what have you. I think it's totally unnecessary. This is for children and it's for parents to enjoy their children. But after hours, I think it's ridiculous to have to go there to drink. So I apologize if I feel this strongly about it, but I think it's totally unnecessary. Right now, we have to take care of the children and the safety of our children in this pandemic time. And I think with drink, it becomes a little more difficult. And I think it's totally unnecessary in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And now we're still looking for
Fish is one of the phone numbers. It's the 917-952 number.
Great. So Jen's going to unmute you, Cheryl, and then it will be your turn. You are unmuted now.
Cheryl, are you there with us?
We can hear
hear
you.
me?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is not Cheryl. This is Liz Muscat, and my audio just wasn't working, and so I dialed in by phone as well as looking at you.
Okay, Liz, we got that. You are not signed up to speak. Did you need to speak tonight on a particular? Otherwise,
No.
okay.
No, I do not.
Thank you. Welcome to Community Board 1. No worries. Thank you. So let's see. I'm not sure who the dial-in user of 207 is, but we can keep going beyond that. All right. So let's move on past that. We have Susan Peters, and then Cora and Hannah Wienerman. And since actually we have quite a short public session, what we'll do is do Susan Peters, and then we will close the public session, open up the business session, and have our electeds speak during that time. Okay? So let's roll with Susan Peters. Let's find Miss Peters.
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, thank you.
Oh, great. I'm a member of New Yorkers for Wiretech, and this is the second time I've been back to this community board because with additional information about this health danger, with the introduction into our city of wireless antennas on practically every street corner. 8,000 are already installed and 4,000 more are planned. I'd like to strongly encourage you to read a December article in the magazine The Washington Spectator by Barbara Koppel. Let me know and I'll supply you the article. It outlines how the telecom industry has captured our government regulators and the press and retaliates against scientists who don't toe the line. The result is that New Yorkers are being subjected to levels of radiation that affect everyone's health. Here are some examples from the article. Scientists worldwide have produced over 2,000 studies that warn that the devices and antennas expose people and animals who develop tumors in the brain, thyroid, prostate, acoustic nerve, and breast. Robert Kane, an electromagnetics engineer who tested wireless devices for Motorola and other firms starting in the 1980s, was able to confirm that cell phone companies knew their products could harm and even kill, but like the tobacco, asbestos, and fossil fuel industries kept the news quiet. The telecoms purchased seats in the watchdog agencies. For example, in 2013, President Obama named Tom Wheeler a CEO of the main telecom trade group to chair the FCC. Please be the watchdog for New Yorkers' health and read the article. Let me know, I'll send it to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I think we're in good shape. If you'd like to send anything to have a discussion or it becomes topical, that would be an appropriate time. But we have everything we need. So I think we're in good shape. All righty, let's move on. Let's see if we have found Cheryl Fish. And if we have not found Cheryl Fish, then I am going to close the public session.
Tammy, I still don't see Cheryl Fish on the attendees list.
Okay, so pursuant to the new format for where we're rolling, we're going to close the public session. We're going to vote on the minutes as long as I have quorum of the community boards, and then we're going to have all our electeds go.
Tammy, the electeds are first on the agenda. If you look
before in the business session.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we'll roll that way, and then next month we'll vote on the minutes before. Thankfully, this time we have a lot more time than we did last month. All righty. So let's take a look at our, we're going to have Cora go first. And then we'll have Cora, and then Hannah, and then Lizzie, and then Luke.
Are we
Okay,
giving them
'cause
the
those-
1, 2? I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we giving them 1, 2?
I think they'll be fine.
Okay.
We have some time. Cora, you're first up.
So can you, why how about this? Is that cool?
Cora, you ready?
Yeah, do you hear echo?
I do.
Well, then it doesn't work. So we
Or
can,
I'm detecting a bit of an echo. If you could either cut your speakers or cut any other speakers that are in the room.
I have it off. Okay, maybe. How about come back to me? Tammy.
Tammy,
You're muted.
Let's move to, sorry, I'm trying to do my own due diligence. Let's move to Hannah from Wiederman from Congressman Nadler's office.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to see everyone. Happy New Year. So we have a new administration. We are looking forward to working with the new Biden-Harris administration, and hopefully a lot of good legislation and good priorities are going to be met. We impeached former President Trump for the second time. The Senate trial begins February 9th. So the congressman is not a manager this time. So as the judiciary, has a role, but it's now in the Senate. I just wanted to flag one sort of national item and then a local item. So the Safe and Quiet Skies Act, which is HR 389, the congressman, in addition, in a collaboration with other representatives, proposed this bill, which asks the FAA to adopt the National Transportation Safety Board's recommendations that will increase safety and reduce the community disruption of commercial air tours, i.e. helicopters. So we are working, with this, as with the Gail Brewer's office, with a larger task force, but specifically we introduced this bill. So I will keep you posted as it goes through committee. A large conversation now is that tax season is shockingly upon us. The season this year is February 12th to April 15th. You cannot file until February 12th, but we anticipate that they may extend the deadline again, so I will keep you posted. But most importantly, this year, you can claim, if you have not received your first or second stimulus bill, you can claim it on your tax return, which is line 30 on your 1040. If you have any questions, the information will be on the IRS website, but I just wanted to claim that because I flag that because I know a lot of people have called our office about it. So we're happy to answer any of those questions. Any obviously casework that comes up, any federal agencies that we can be of help with, please let me know. Pleasure to see everyone.
Tammy, can I ask Hannah a question?
Sure.
Concerning the taxes, Hannah, the PUA and the regular unemployment, is that something that needs to be is considered as income or not?
I'm not sure of that immediate answer. Mitch, why don't you call our office and I'll ask our caseworkers if they have immediate information, but if anyone has a specific question on that, feel free to call the office.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mitch. Do I have anybody else who has a hands up for a question for Anna? Nope. And fantastic. Mitch, if you can take your hand down, that would be great. Next, we're going to move over. I'm going to flip this up a little bit. We're going to do Lizzie Lee from Senator Kavanaugh's office next, and then Comptroller's Scott Stringer office, Luke Wolf, and then we'll come back to Cora. Lizzie?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So just quick updates since we last gathered. As you all may know now, we had the special session to pass the eviction moratorium, one of the strongest in the nation. And if you are all in need of any standardized hardship declarations, just please feel free to reach out to our office. There are, wide provisions of protections offered for both homeowners and tenants, and we're hoping that this is going to be something to, tide us over until we get some substantial federal relief. In relation to rent relief, as you may have heard, the ERRA deadline has been extended to February 1st. If you applied before, you do not have to reapply, but the eligibility has been changed so that the households are no longer required to have been rent burdened before the pandemic to qualify. And just in the prospects, we are hoping to pass a comprehensive election reforms package in the state legislature. Senator Kavanaugh co-sponsored a package of election reforms to improve New York State's electoral system and empower voters. So we're hoping to get that passed in both houses during this legislative session. With the vaccinations, as you may all know, there are critical issues. We are in daily communications with the governor's office to advocate for wider and more efficient distribution, and we'll keep you all closely updated. If you need help accessing or navigating the forms on trying to find locations to get the vaccines, please feel free to reach out to our office. And of course, we are going to continue to be diligent in supporting our small businesses, particularly those with the unique challenges posed by CB1's unique infrastructure needs, and fight for transparent and appropriate community engagements for many of CB1's projects. So let us know if our office can do anything. That's it for me.
Thank you very, very much. And actually, we want to welcome our Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer. She is on with us, so we will move directly to Gail. Can you unmute Miss Gail, please?
I think I'm unmuted. Am I unmuted?
You are. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much. I'll be quick. I only have 3 more boards to go, but I know you got a long night too. So a couple of things. First of all, I will have my Governor's Island up tomorrow. We've been working hard on it, a little bit late, but I want to thank the community board for your hard work. Your suggestions were extraordinary, and I want to thank you for joining us at our task force on Governor's Island. I've needless to say, spent a lot of time talking to many people on the topic in the last couple of days, as you can imagine. Number 2, on the vaccines, we had a good discussion today with community boards and experts, mostly just to talk about the Manhattan situation. And I think you can imagine it was scheduling, appointments, websites, and then good ideas about how to reach seniors, working with the programs that feed seniors, working with mutual aid, working with calling. This was an excellent idea. All the SCREE and DREE persons who get that program, etc. A lot of creative ideas. So we will continue that. Our next meeting, community board is certainly welcome to participate. It's February 3rd at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And of course, while we were talking on the Zoom today, the Daily News, I think, broke the news that there'll be more vaccine. Never enough, but it's nice to hear that that's happening. Because right now there are more dose 2 than dose 1 available as we sit here right now. And then the other issue that I think we're working on is just that you have been excellent on is the issue of the housing task force. It's like a yo-yo back and forth between the Upper West Side and your community. I know there is a possibility of some, folks who are upset because there might be some safe havens in the future, but I do think that that's the way to go. And I think you and I have, and the community board are supportive as long as it's a good nonprofit. I will say that we have been calling all of the vacant for sale hotels in the borough of Manhattan, because there are quite a few of them, and saying, would you be willing to sell, and would you be willing to sell to a nonprofit so that we can have some senior housing in particular, affordable low-income senior housing. So we're trying to do that, and we've had some possibilities, and then of course it's trying to get the package of financial support together. I can't tell you it's easy, but we are very determined to try to come up, if there's any silver lining in this, could we please have some more affordable housing that's permanent, not transitional. I also want to just mention that the issue of police reform, April 1st is the deadline, as you know, and I think you've been working on it. And I hope you have seen that we have a toolkit on past suggestions for the police reform so we don't make the same mistakes in the future. I know that applications are due now February 22nd, so it's been extended for those who are members and those who are wanting to be members. We want to get a really robust outreach, so we have extended it to February 22nd. And most of the applications are due for the capital funding, which is obviously for those that are parks and schools, as well as culturals and so on. They have a couple of dates. It's all on the website. Some are due on the 21st and some are due on the 25th. And that's it. And I want to thank you very much, particularly for the work that you've been doing on housing and the issue of Governor Island. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail, for joining us. It is always a pleasure to have you and for your advocacy on behalf of the community. So thank you very much.
Can I ask her a question?
Absolutely.
Madam Borough President, so similar to the housing specifically for seniors, might we at some point begin to focus specifically on millennials and Gen Zs that have had a really horrible time? We didn't leave them much with which to work in terms of...
And artists and the whole group of people.
Yes.
I would be willing, as everybody knows, I would work on affordable housing for everybody and anybody. Absolutely. It's the most...
Yeah, there's just nowhere for our, adult children to move
I'm more than
in New York. Thank you.
And I guess, Gail, you've heard us say it before. One of the things that kind of makes us crazy is the conversation always comes down to it's either X or Y. It's very rarely taken as a holistic look for a community. So, we're looking and saying to be able to have people's children stay in the neighborhood. We'd love the teachers to stay. We'd like to see, the firemen be able to live local. A nice broad diversity would be.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Timer, you're muted.
The deadline for public members who wish to be full board members is the same as the general public, correct? They're both on February 22nd. So if a public member wants to become a full board member, their application time is the same. If a public member is just staying as a public member, it stays within the community board.
Yep.
Okay. I think I don't see any other hands up from board members. And so thank you very much, Madam Borough President. Next, we're going to go to Claudia from Assemblymember News Office. And Luke, don't be annoyed. I know you're still there.
Sorry, Luke, I'll make this very quick. Thank you, Tammy. Hello, everyone. This is Claudia from Assemblymember News Office. I hope everyone is safe in this weather today. This month, the Assemblymember hosted two major events. One was last Thursday. We were joined by NYCHA representatives, residents, as well as community advocates for a virtual town hall to discuss NYCHA's blueprint for change in affordable housing. Thank you, everyone who joined us for that conversation. The Assemblymember also joined OAF Commissioner Keller for the Commissioner's Community Webcam series to inform the public on how to handle and respond to OAF summons during the pandemic. Both of these virtual events have been uploaded to our YouTube account, and I have linked those in our board report. Thank you, Lucian, if you're able to get it up shortly. I'm so sorry I submitted a little bit late today. We are working on the Chinese and Spanish captions on those videos, so hopefully that will help more of our residents to be able to digest information that was presented at the event, even if they missed it. On the legislative front, the Assembly has resumed session this month, and the Assemblymember is in between session and a number of scheduled joint budget hearings with her colleagues. We're going to keep everyone updated on these conversations, as well as any progress on her legislations. We are planning to host our annual legislative and budgetary town hall soon. I don't have the exact date yet, but we hope we can bring some of those conversations from these joint hearings to the residents shortly. Thank you, everyone, and please stay safe.
Thank you, Claudia. That was awesome. Now we're going to go. I promised you, Luke, we wouldn't forget. And after Luke, we're going to do Cora. And after Cora, I believe we have Gigi, who will give a short update from NAC. So Luke Wolf from Comptroller Scott Stringer's office.
Hi, everyone. Start by wishing everyone a happy new year. Give me big shoes to fill tonight, Tammy. But a few quick updates from our office. First, yesterday, the Comptroller was very excited to announce the city's pension funds have voted to divest their portfolios of an estimated $4 billion from securities related to fossil fuel companies. So this is one of the largest divestments in the world and will address the significant financial and environmental risks that come with holding fossil fueled assets. This was first announced in 2018, and New York City became the first major city in the world to commit to divesting these funds from fossil fuel companies. And I've been very excited that a lot of cities have jumped on board and that New York City continues to be a leader in this regard. Number two, the Comptroller announced a Fair Shot NYC plan, really focused on vaccine access and equity. A few of the recommendations in there are, number one, we need to release all the demographic data in real time so we know who, where, by age, race, etc., is getting vaccinated and where the city needs to keep on doing more outreach. Two, making sure that businesses provide paid time off so that employees don't have to choose between getting their vaccine and getting a check. Number three, take some of the contact tracers and allocate them to outreach efforts and really ramp up that sort of consumer education to make sure that everyone knows what they need to know to safely and comfortably get the vaccine. And also establish a supply management task force to make sure that once we get all the new vaccine in, we're able to appropriately and quickly disperse it to the communities it needs to get to go to. The last thing I'll finish off on is we released a plan around the Paycheck Protection Program. We found the first round of PPP, only 12% of eligible New York City businesses actually received the funds. We think that should be a much higher number, and that really involves having the city go from being reactive around PPP to proactive, doing door-to-door outreach, making sure that every business owner who is eligible knows that money's available, how to get it, and the financial institutions they can turn to potentially get that loan. So a few of the things we're working on, I will share my email and some of this information in the chat, and happy to take any questions as well.
Thank you, as always. I don't see any questions, and I don't see any hands raised, nor hear anybody shouting. So thank you very much for coming, Luke. And let's turn it over now to Cora.
Again, am I be heard?
Much
good.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Thank you, Tammy. Councilmember Chin says hello to everyone. On the land use, we continue to work on 250 Water Street site and Governor's Island rezoning. On housing affordability, we continue to work with a group of 13 tenants at 225 Rector Place to fight against eviction. And along with the state and federal elected officials, we also have the homeowners' affordability issues to deal with, and we will explore possible options altogether, thanks to the BPC Homeowners Coalition and the Battery Alliance for their homeowners' advocacy. On the legislative front, we want to highlight Intro 1116. It's a bill that reformed the street vending industry in New York City. We'll gradually expand the number of available permits. Some of you might know the number of available food permits has been capped since the Koch administration. As a result, many vendors rent permits on the illegal market for predatory rates. So without a legal permit, street vendors have not been able to qualify for COVID relief packages. With COVID, last week, the council member chaired a joint hearing with the Committee on Aging and the Committee on Technology to discuss vaccine distribution. Councilmember Chin called on the administration to coordinate more with city agencies to design a better system for scheduling vaccine appointments online and through the phone. It's budget season. All public schools seeking contracts with the city must reach out to our office and apply for funding through the City Council's website. Our office also connects more businesses in the district with resources they can apply, they can use. So please contact me so I can connect you to the colleagues who handle those areas. And Councilmember Chin thanks you all very much for all that you do. As we move into year 2 of the pandemic, there will be continuing and immense challenges. We will continue to work with you to address these concerns, and thank you all.
I think we're doing great. Thank you. Let's see if there's any questions for you, Ms. Cora. Nope, no questions. Oh, I'm loving the speed that this is rolling today. All right, let's see. Is Gigi here?
Tam, I don't see.
Let's see if we can find her in the call-in users, if possible. I'll take a look as well.
There's a call-in user with a number 207475. I haven't muted you. If you could identify yourself, please. No, okay.
Once you're signed in.
I just got a text from her. She's having some troubles logging in. She's on the way, so let's just make sure that we take a quick look and find her. And in the meanwhile, we can move over some of the board members who are in the attendee section.
Tammy, I can go ahead and give the district manager report in the meantime, if you'd like.
Why don't we do the minutes, and then we'll go from there.
I can't seem to pass over the presenting privileges to Diana.
Lucian doesn't have any slides, so if his update is just verbal, you should keep it for now if we're going to get presenters back.
She's only getting one Gigi, and she's letting her go, so I'm trying to just move it over.
Okay, Jen, can you assign me presenter?
I'll do you just in a moment.
Thank you.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
Okay. So I think we have quorum. Yes, Lucian and Lucy, ready with quorum? Yeah, I'm looking, we are. Okay, fantastic. Since we have quorum, can I get a motion to adopt the December minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great.
Aye.
Do I have any objections? No objections, no recusals, and no abstentions. Minutes are adopted. Let's move forward with Mariama's treasurer's report.
Hi. So, let me take off my mask. I'm out. I'm on the move. I have to go pick up my daughter. So I was masked. I'm sorry. So we are here in the second quarter, and like everyone else around the country, definitely watching the money, trying to tighten our belts. But there's really not anywhere from which to take any money. Like you could say, we don't need the office supplies, for example, but that's not true. Lucy does still go into the office and work. And the salaries and everything are already allocated. There has been a budget cut that is itemized there. Of course, that was a city budget cut, a government imposed budget cut that wasn't the community board's doing. And we have no income because we're not able to do any street fairs during the pandemic. And that's basically where we are. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. But if not, that's about the gist of it.
Okay, well, let's stand by, see if I have any hands that pop up. Seeing no hands, thank you very much, Mariama.
You're welcome.
And before we move to the district manager's report, Gigi is on the line and she's part of, let's have her go first.
Great, thank you, Chairperson. I'm trying to figure out how to activate my screen here. But I will just start by saying, Happy New Year, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Margaret Chin. And I wanted to take my couple minutes here to make a brief statement about the council member's office's role in borough-based jail. I think many of the board members, particularly on the land use committee, have been very frustrated with the mayor's lack of engagement, lack of transparency around the process moving forward. And there was a presentation, I guess if you could call it that, from Andrew Kunkes from the Community Affairs Unit that seemed to imply that the council member's office has a role in how the neighborhood advisory committees are run and who shows up and their content. And I am here to dispel that rumor. The only involvement that the council member's office has is that we were asked to submit names of individuals who we felt were community stakeholders that we would recommend to be invited as part of the neighborhood advisory committee. We also reached out to the community board staff to ask for names as well. And that is the extent of our involvement. We offer feedback about how things are going and share your frustration and concerns about how they've been going. But so I wanted to let all of the members and the public know that we share those concerns. Because of that, we have reached out to City Hall directly, and I received an assurance today from City Hall, and I have it in writing, that at the February 8th CB1 land use meeting, that there will be high-level representatives accompanying Andrew to answer the questions that are outstanding from March 2020 that the community board submitted with high-level members from the design and construction committee, the mayor's office of criminal justice, as well as the Department of Corrections. And so I have alerted both your chairperson as well as your district manager to make sure that that is reflected on your February agenda. And with that, chairperson, if there's any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to do that.
That would be awesome if you don't mind hanging in there for a second. Let's see if I see any hands. Oh, not surprisingly, I do see a few hands up. I will start with Alice Blank, our vice chair.
Thanks.
And then I'm going to go to Vicky and then to Bruce.
Thanks, Tammy and Gigi. So yeah, one question. So one of the things that Kunkes had said was that it was the council member and the Manhattan Borough president who had made the decision not to open the NAC, which is the Neighborhood Advisory Council, to the public. In other words, that the meetings could not be heard by the public, not that they would necessarily be members. Could you speak to that? Because that seemed a little unclear. And of course, this community board is on record, both in resolution and I think locally many times, that these meetings should indeed be able to be seen and heard, certainly recorded by the public. So is that true, that it was the council member and the borough president's decision not to allow those to be made public?
So I cannot, and I won't speak on behalf of the borough president or the borough president's office, but the council member did request that these meetings be public. Again, we do not have the final say in these meetings, but that is why we felt it was very important that they continue updating the community board, because we understand that the community board meetings are truly the meetings where the public can participate, that press can also log on. And quite frankly, I know there were concerns about the way the meeting yesterday was run, in that even the members of the NAC were muted, and there weren't a lot of opportunities for true engagement. And at the community board, we feel like those meetings are run in a more engaging fashion.
So just to summarize, Kunkus was incorrect in stating that the council member had in fact asked that these meetings previously be closed to the public. That was not accurate.
That is why I'm here. I'm here to clear everything up.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And again, I will say thank you, Gigi, for your responsiveness in the call today after last night's meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
From Alice, we're going to Vicky and then to Bruce. And if you want to speak, but you can't figure out how to put your hand up, just chat the host and they'll let me know.
Okay. Thanks, Tammy. Hi, Gigi. Nice to have you back.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to inform you and my fellow board members, or I want to remind some of them, that I would say even in late 2019, so not even 2020, because I think the American Institute of Architects ceased operation in person. So sometimes in October or November of 2019, I attended a lecture on the Borough-based jail in Manhattan, and it was attended by some really high-profile people. At that lecture, literally every single question that we've had since March was addressed. And I remember thinking that, there was a plan in place. There was nothing that was sort of left. As Andrew presented last week, our people are working on it. So I would just like to know why that was given to, one group so early on, and yet the rest of us here have been struggling for a year to get what was given freely at a talk for architects.
Right. So I can't speak for the mayor's office. They clearly, I think, are wrongly prioritizing who to give information out to and sort of how they're doing that. But we are on very high alert now. I made several calls to City Hall over the past week, also because your chairperson called and was very upset. And so I have assurances that starting at the land use meeting and moving forward, that this will that there will be a much more prioritized CB1 outreach.
All right, and shared information that I say they had over a year ago.
Yes.
Again, thank you. It was so great to see you, to have you back.
Good to see you.
Okay.
Okay, that puts us to Bruce. You're next. And again, if you've already spoken, please put your hand down. Thanks so much.
Hi, good to see you, Gigi.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, I'm a longtime supporter of our city council person, and I appreciate all the work she's done. I just want to ask something about upcoming support for 250 Water Street and the ULURP that's coming. Against enormous political pressure, the LPC did what it was required to do by law and judge the 250 Water Street application based on contextuality and architecture, landmarks, definitions. I don't understand Councilwoman Chin's support of it. It was never clear to me on what legal basis she supported that application.
So I won't go into all the details. I'm happy to send over a copy of her testimony that lays out her thinking on 250 Water and that project. I will say, and I think she and both the borough president have been very public, that support for the survival of the South Street Seaport Museum is a priority for her, and that was something that weighed very heavily on her decision.
Okay, I won't argue the point. LPC rightly said that could not legally be a consideration for LPC, maybe Euler, but not LPC. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Tricia, you're next. And Alice, if you could put your hand down, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Hi,
We
Tricia.
can, Tricia.
Oh, thank you. I don't know where my button went. Thank you, Terry. Gigi, and my video isn't working either. I apologize.
Mine's not either, so.
Are you here? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm asking you this now because we have something super timely with this Harbor School pool, and I know that
Yes.
Margaret was a huge advocate of it, and we have a very small window to get this done. So I was going to send you an email tomorrow, but we're really counting on her support because the SCA has said they will fund it. And we really need 515, and we need to get it done now before everything transitions. And so I just wanted to put that out there because I wanted to reach out to you tomorrow and give you some time with it. But
yes.
if they're in full support, it was something that, you know, Governor's Island Trust was very much in support of. It's a historical building, and yet we keep hitting this pass the buck thing. So I'm really counting on Margaret, and I'm really hoping that you guys can help us get this over the finish line.
Yes, so thank you for that. I definitely owe you a call. I was just on the phone with City Hall today talking about Harbor School. Margaret continues to be supportive of classroom expansion, a pool, as well as some sort of gymnasium or gymatorium. We are continuing to work through that both with Governor's Island, School Construction Authority, and City Hall. I think we need to, they are thinking about what that financially looks like. But these conversations are very, they're happening, and they're sort of changing kind of day by day, hour by hour. But the council member's support absolutely is behind that effort. And we're going to do everything we can to get this over the finish line, for sure.
Thank you. It's really all about 515 because they came back with 555 and it's not enough space. And before we lose that building, and especially now that the SCA has said they will fund this, and I think we just have a slam dunk. And I really hope that this delay isn't about them finding another purpose for 515. It really is the only space that's going to really work. It has enough space. It has a proximity to the school. So I just don't want to have everybody lose their focus on that spot. And I can see that conversations are starting to splinter. So I really, you know, like I said, I'll reach out tomorrow, but I want to put this in a full court press right now if we can.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep the splintering from happening. We have a lot of architects, lawyers, and engineers trying to work on all aspects of this, again, like daily right now. So I promise you that conversations are happening at the highest level with all stakeholders.
Thank you so much.
Apologies on my delay coming back here. I think we had one more question. I'm going to see if Jen has it from somebody who could not be unmuted. Just give me one sec, Gigi, and then I know you have to go because you're actually hosting a meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me see. Jen, do you have it by chance?
I don't. I'm trying to get that question in right now, so.
Okay. Okay. In the meanwhile, if we're almost done, and I know Gigi has to run, so I just had one more question about the NAC, and I appreciate you coming to talk about this here. One of the concerns that I had were questions that were raised in the public sessions of community board meetings and through both the full board meetings and resolutions and in discussion in committee. We were actually told by Andrew when we asked him, he said that they would be first answered privately at the NAC and then come to the community board. My position is, as I stated when he said that at our meeting this month and at the NAC last night, that's absolutely backwards. If a question is asked in the public realm from the public, then it needs to be answered, not behind closed doors to start with, but into the public environment. And it doesn't seem like due process for public engagement. Furthermore, on public engagement, you cannot count showing up to a meeting saying, I plead the fifth, or I don't have that information, I'll get back to you, and then tick the box that they said last night, well, we have been at the community board meetings. You can't claim that engagement is, I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you. That just does not seem fair for the community.
Yeah, so Tammy, we completely agree. I raised this with City Hall, and their answer was that they see the NAC as a sort of initial feedback, right? And that if there were any kind of red flags or glaring errors, that they would then use the opportunity to refine and reassess before going back out to the public. That's how they see sort of the role of and purpose of the NAC. And it's something that we have challenged. And we do believe that all meetings, should be public, where that information is widely available.
I totally appreciate that. And if you could let us know who at City Hall is sort of making those decisions, that would be lovely. And then I would say, we're on board. Some of the things, for example, I think if you're going to be able to present in a public forum to city planning, that information was already out there in October. We asked for it to come. Why he couldn't present it in January when it was already publicly available and information was out there seemed a little three-card Monty to me.
Right. So look, I know that you're not shy about calling my cell phone, and we can continue to compile, all of these meetings and make sure these other meetings that are happening to other agencies where information is getting shared either before Community Board 1 or selectively with Community Board 1, and we can make sure that they provide links to those meetings, if not share those decks with you.
Perfect. Welcome back. Happy 2021. And
thank you.
Hold on tight, because it's going to be a bumpy ride for the balance of the year.
Lots of action at Community Board 1 right now, for sure.
Exactly. And if I have no other questions, I know you have to go.
Yep. Thank you so much for the time.
Tammy, sorry, I'm forwarding the question right now.
Just read it out, Jen.
Sure. The question is, we all want to ensure the survival of the South Street Seaport Museum, but now LPC has not taken any action. Is Councilmember Chan prepared to meet with community members on how to secure a future for the museum?
Look, if there are ideas on how to support the museum fiscally moving forward, I am, and the council member is always happy to discuss that. You can feel free to email me directly, and I can start that conversation with you. It's certainly a conversation we would want to include the museum and the museum board on, but absolutely, we're open to any ideas.
Perfect. Thank you, and for your time.
Great.
And
good night.
I'm sure you'll hear from us.
I'm sure.
All right. Thanks, Gigi.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. With that, let's proceed straight to our district manager's report. And I just want everyone to sort of keep a timely note that it's 7:01. We had probably one of the most robust reporting sessions from all of our electeds, and we got an NAC update, and it's 7:01, and we're already partway through the business session. So, Lucian, take it away.
Thanks, Tammy. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucian Reynolds. I'm the district manager of Manhattan Community Board 1. Here's my update for January. While no one is particularly happy or satisfied by the government's vaccination efforts at any level, I'd like to pay particular attention to the many sign-up portals that aspiring vaccine recipients are forced to peruse to find an appointment time. Fortunately, a number of very skilled engineers volunteered their time to build a single website that scrapes data from the multiple government vaccine portals and puts that information in one place. That website, which I'll give out the address now verbally, we'll also put it in the chat, is nycvaccinelist.com. And so you're able to see multiple different portals and if there are signups available on the same day. So it's a very useful tool as the list opens up for new groups to sign up. So we encourage everyone to keep trying to get an appointment, to get a vaccine. We know that supplies are constrained, and we will do everything we can as a CB to improve upon that if there's even a way. The next item is that the New York City fiscal year 2022 preliminary budget is now available, directly pertinent to us. As Mariama said, the city is instituting a $1.35 billion program to eliminate the gap, which is a PEG. That is the budget cut that Mariama described. And it cut our budget this year, and it will cut our upcoming fiscal year 22 budget as well. I'll also post a link to all the preliminary budget information into the chat for everyone, as well as put something in the public documents link. I want to remind everyone that on the website where you sign into this meeting, there is also a link for all of the resolutions that are draft and to be considered tonight, as well as any other documents that are given to us by our partner elected officials' offices. So we want to make sure that that information is available to everyone, just like it would be in a in-person meeting. So we're trying to replicate all the features of an in-person meeting as best as we can. The last item is something that no one likes to hear. I just got an email today from Con Edison for a number of weekend street closures. So I want to just run through the quick list as a public service announcement for the community, but I'll also be including this information in our upcoming newsletter at the end of the week, as well as targeted emails to people who live in directly impacted areas. So the first is Walker Street between Church and Broadway. The closure will start on Saturday, February 6th through Sunday, February 28th. So weekend hours, 8 a.m. through 6 p.m. And on Saturday, 9 through 6 on Sundays. There's also another closure on Pearl Street between Whitehall and State Street. The closure will start on February 6th and will go until Sunday, February 28th. And that will be 8 to 6 on Saturdays and 9 to 6 on Sundays. The last closure is Bridge Street between Whitehall and Broad, and that will start on February 13th and go until March 7th. And again, the hours will be Saturdays 8 to 6 and Sundays 9 to 6. These are all gas main upgrade projects. I'm looking to get more information from Con Edison. They are available to come to our February Quality of Life Committee meeting for any further updates, but I will reach out and make contact with people who are directly affected if I have their contact information. And with that, Tammy, I pass it back to you.
Thank you so much. And I think Diana's going to flip up some slides for me. I will be quick. Well, oh no, go back to the first one. Diana, see. Okay. For those who do not know, we have lots of people who take great photos. If you take great photos around the neighborhood and you want them to be used in either in my chair report or in our weekly newsletter, please share them with Lucian and I. Here are three from different neighborhoods around the city and all amateur photography. So moving along, next. Okay, so here's places I've been this month, quote unquote been. We had our Governor's Island Climate Center meeting with setting some goals, quarterly update. The public hearing, I did testimony, it went out, it's available if you need to see it, there's a link. Francis Curtis and our quality of life team now attend our mayor's office test, tracing, and vaccine updates. So we will get whatever updates that come through there into our newsletters on Friday. Borough board was quite robust with the zoning for coastal resiliency resolution, which was approved with changes. Thank you to everyone on our board who fiercely advocated for CB1. Looking ahead, I attended a Manhattan polling site task force. They are looking for permanent locations for early voting sites and election day voting sites. If you'd like to be involved with that, please let me know, and I'm happy to connect you. There is some security concerns that the principals and people in the schools, one because of COVID and two because of just security for where we are in life these days, would like to try and find alternate locations than schools these days. The NAC meeting's been covered. I'm so glad that Gigi came. I also attended Anthony's funeral with, I want to thank Lucy and Lucian who went, as well as Senator Kavanaugh and Gail Brewer. Anthony's wife was kind enough to send me cards, memorial cards, and postcards. So if you would like to fill out a postcard and send it to his family for a memorial, I have them. I'm happy to drop them at your doorman or wherever you need. Just let me know. And we are postponing the holiday. I'm sure Pat or Mariama or Francis or Mimi would tell you, we're going to wait until it's nice and we can all be outside for a socially distanced cocktail and cheers together. Did you know that the World Trade Center Oculus closes overnight now? Well, you would if you read the newsletter. So please read the newsletter. So here's some upcoming, stay tuned. Gail mentioned we are collaborating. Next slide. On Thursday, there is a community boards 1, 6, 7, 9, and 11. It's a Zoom forum on housing. This went out in our newsletter on Friday and Gail's, and we will send out a dedicated email on this tomorrow. Please feel free to join us Thursday evening at 6:30 via Zoom. We have a nice panel, including our own CB1 Reggie Thomas will be there. And yes, this is a general housing exploring economic impacts. I think at CB1, we can talk about the loss of affordable and stabilized housing probably better than any of the other boards, as they're all looking to add and take away. All righty, next slide. February 3rd. Okay, for Governor's Island, everyone can testify. The CPC public hearing starts at 10 a.m. If you need the link, we will send that out with an update as well. All right, and if you see, those are, again, beautiful, the top two publicly taken pictures by an amateur photographer. Hint, hint. All right, and with that, I think I am going to end my chair report and jump straight into our executive meeting. I appreciate everybody's flexibility with the technical issues that we had from land use and pumping that into executive. So here we are. I think our first full board meeting of the year, we are road testing how we're working. We did have the public session sign up. It worked for people before 6 p.m. The only people who signed up after 6 p.m. this time, strikingly, some of our elected reps. That's okay. But the goal is that we will always start our business session around 7 o'clock, not later, not 7:15. And even if it's a hot topic, there's no more signing up during the meeting. So people who don't like what's being said then sign up and kind of cascade down, which is what's happened to us through most of last year. All right. During the business session, please note, we will be kind but firm. So if you have something to say about the resolution, say it. We'll go down to everybody who's got their hand raised. If your hand is still up, I'm happy to come back to you. But the goal would be per resolution about 15 minutes. If it's hot, obviously it'll be longer. But try and be respectful, try and be polite. If you interrupt, you will be booted back to attendee, and you'll have to deal with the office team, who will then promote you back or unmute you. And you can rail all you'd like in the chat, but I don't see it. All right. The goal is, I've heard from at least half the board about great days, not great days. The work is really done in the committee. The negotiations, the yelling back and forth, all of that fun stuff happens in committee. So that's where we hope, if you're interested, definitely go to the committee meetings. And with that, I close my chair's report and I close the executive, and let's welcome Betty Kay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I want to report about the Transportation Committee. You can see there was a pretty full agenda, but tonight we're going to talk about 3 resolutions that we voted on. Go to next slide. The first resolution, which I know you've received in your packet, your emails, is about the moped share in New York City. This was talked about briefly, the very end of a very long meeting last month. So I'm hoping to have a little bit more time to look at it, since there were so many abstentions last month. But this was reworked to look at what it really is about, the moped share organizations, of which Revel is merely one of them. So to remind people, this is not about mopeds being legal, because they are in New York. It provides a low-cost, zero-emission, equitable transportation option. This was heard over and over again in the testimony to City Council as they're considering their legislation. New York City Council is working on laws to regulate moped share companies. It's not completed yet. That would require updating the New York City Charter about the DOT's responsibilities. Again, these are all part of what you're voting on as resolution statements. And the DOT expects rulemaking process for moped share to begin next year. So the question of what you're really voting on is, do you want CB1 to have a say or not? And that means we need a resolution. So I'm going to open if there are any comments or questions.
And you know that my plug is, we always want to have CB1 opine, because that's what we're here for. So
Thank you. I agree.
I do not see any hands up. Sorry, tell. Oh my goodness. Having you go first may have worked this time.
Well, unless Claudia Zhu, his hand is up for this topic.
Nah, her hand's been up since she got here.
Okay.
Well, and now it's
move forward.
A second for a call to question. This will be roll call because it's our first. So, Brittany, take it away.
Yep. Okay. Again, if you guys could say your name and then your vote, that would be great. And Maruso?
Abstain.
Okay. Blank?
Blank abstains.
Ready?
Brown Kennedy abstain.
Cameron?
Cameron abstain.
Cell abstain.
All right, hold on, guys. Before everybody goes down this road of abstention, I am really hoping that you read the resolution. Right? I mean, can we put the where therefore be it resolves up on the screen?
Which is the next slide.
Yeah. There you go.
What information? The vote's been called, Madam Chair.
I understand, and I am clarifying to make sure that people know what they are voting on, so that they have the information to ensure.
We're all grown-ups. We know what we're doing.
Keep going.
Wait, I understand what Tammy's saying, and I'm going to vote for it.
Okay. Is that Cassell?
Cassell, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Chang?
Chang votes yes.
Chapman? Chapman? Okay. Charkoudian?
Yes.
Chu, Chu, Cole,
Cole votes yes.
Chia, Kuchia, Cunningham, Cunningham. Okay, Curtis,
No.
Airman,
Second call, and I'd like to see the full resolutions on the screen as we're voting, please.
God. This is it.
Is that a yes? No? Abstain.
Second call means I take the vote after everyone is voting. That's what second call means.
Okay, got it. Flynn,
Flynn, a licensed motorcycle rider, emphatically votes yes on this resolution that I helped work on.
Franker,
Votes yes.
Friedman, yes.
Froman,
Froman, yes.
Galloway,
Galloway, very much yes.
Goldstein,
Goldstein, yes.
Gupta,
Gupta, yes.
Jesse, James, Joyce.
Yes, I have a question. Can I ask a question? No. I'll just vote
defer
yes.
to Tammy.
It's all right.
Okay. Kay,
Kay, yes.
Kennel,
Cannell, yes.
Kettering,
Kettering, yes.
Capel, Clementis,
Yeah, muted if he's on via phone.
okay, I'll come back to him. Clementis, Amory,
Lemery, yes.
Lerner,
Abstain.
Lewinson,
Lewinson, yes.
Mahoney,
Mahoney, yes.
McHugh,
McHugh, yes.
Meltzer,
Meltzer, who's too chicken to ride one of these, says yes. Maybe you'll have to teach me.
Mihalski,
Yes.
Mihawk,
Myhawk reluctantly votes yes.
Monjovi, Moore,
Yes.
Schneck,
Abstain.
Star,
Star, yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Vesco, Tedesco, Townley, Townley. Okay. Wade, yes. Weinstock,
Weinstock, yes.
Juju,
Z is yes.
Zelter, okay. Do we have Townley, Tedesco, Monjovi, Clementis, Capel, James, Jesse, Airman.
Airman votes yes.
Thank you.
I see Mariama, so I'm not sure if she just didn't unmute.
Yeah,
But
I
I
didn't
see
hear
her.
from her.
Okay.
Okay.
She says she was picking up her children.
Okay. I can ask her. Cunningham,
Cunningham excused.
okay. Kuchia,
Excused.
okay. Chapman. Okay, and we're good.
Zelter's yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we have 30 yeses, 6 abstains, and 1 opposed.
Thank you very much. Hit it back to Betty. Do you have anything else on your agenda?
Yes, there are two more resolutions. So next slide. This one is about revocable consent for the Battery Park City Ball Fields Resiliency Project. This project itself was approved by this community board in May of 2019. This is not about the project itself or those details. It's about the space that the DOT controls, which is really the sidewalks. What you see here is the red fence that surrounds the perimeter of the ball parks. The fence are plates that are going to be attached to this fence. While that is being done, from late March, early April until July of this year, in order to keep the ball fields open, which was part of our resolution, they will be staging the construction and closing the sidewalks on the outside all around this red area. There will be access to the ball fields. They will not have an impact. And that's really what this is about. It's supported, of course, by the Battery Park City Authority, which put forward the request. Not much more to add. To that, the sidewalks will be closed for safety of walkers, but they can walk on the other side of the street.
Call the question.
If anyone's ready to vote, yeah, I didn't know, I realized I could call the question.
Betty, I do have one. I was going to propose an amendment, if you would be open to it. To this, was it this one? Yes. Yeah, and so it's very much in line with discussions we had in committee. It just didn't make it into the resolution before we voted. So it would add a "be it further resolved" that would ask the Battery Park City Authority to post on their website all access and egress drawings with all their dimensions. Similar to what you just displayed on your screen, and also to include their to-be-developed mobility plan for right-of-way affected by the construction. And I can't post into the chat, otherwise I'd post the exact text, but I could read it out again if that's the protocol here.
Just post it to the chat, and then the host will turn it around and send it to everyone.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm struggling from my phone. It doesn't seem to be allowing me to send anything to the chat, but let me try to log in on my laptop. I could also email it to you, Lucian, if that's easier.
Email it to me. That's easier. That's fine.
All right. Let me just shoot you a quick email.
That's fine.
Yep. Sorry to derail everyone.
That's fine. Then Tammy, that'll be the first vote.
If you accept that friendly amendment, you don't need it as a vote. You only need to vote if it's contested. Do you accept his friendly amendment?
I accept the amendment, but that wasn't voted on by committee.
That's okay. It doesn't change the resolution at all. I mean, we can ask parliamentarians, but I believe since it doesn't change the intent of the resolution, it's a clarifying support. I think we can roll with that.
Yes, this is common practice. This is Kettering here. I don't have any problem with this.
Thank you, Michael. So Betty, do you accept the amendment?
Yes, yes, because as Michael said, this is clarification of the space that will be closed. What is going to be done as an alternative?
All right, then call the question. Here we go. And that was a second by Colin.
Yep.
So I think we're going to run this one, Brittany, the same as we run all the others. You don't need to roll call because we've roll called the first. You do yays, nays, abstentions, and recusals. Yep. And if you are a board member who is going to abstain, then you need to say Meltzer abstains for the record. All right. So Brittany, and by the way, I don't abstain. I'm just exampling. Go for it, Brittany.
Sure. Any opposed? Okay. Any abstentions? Any recusals? Okay, great. Thank you.
Can you please check members that came in after the first vote? For example, Mariana, and we're still looking for Joe Capel.
Yes. So Mariam, are you here? What about Joe Capel?
Those are just two that I can think of, but there are others that didn't vote on the first roll call.
I don't see Joe Cabell's number on the list.
Okay. Burton? Chapman? Do we have Jesse? Clementes? Monjovi? Tedesco or Townley? Okay, they're still absent.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next slide for our last resolution. This was a request by the residents and the management at 212 Warren Street, which actually opens onto to River Terrace, which is what this photo is. The vehicles to the left are actually parked because there was a sign change that no one, including the DOT, can explain why it was changed. It changed around May, and I see that Nick Spordone from the Battery Park City Authority is on, so he can always help clarify. But they support the tenants. They had no problem with placards. They had access to their building to have drop-offs. Once the sign change occurred, placards park there all day long, every day. And now they have to drop off people, closing off traffic. As you can see in a photo like this, is quite congested at times. So this resolution was merely asking the DOT to please change back to the original signage that no one requested a change for, and go back to a no standing anytime sign. And are there any discussions or questions?
Hey, sorry, but I have a super friendly amendment. I would just be super stronger on the verbiage on the resolution here. Implores, please change. I would, sorry, as someone who used to live at 22 River Terrace and was annoyed by this, I would just say demand or insist or whatever. That just,
well, that's what implores is begs, but
yeah. Anyways,
I like demands.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think this will be in many ways more effective, but also I can tell you,
pay attention one way or another if you're nice, but it's up to you.
well, I also know that this request was already made by the authority, and the DOT politely turned it back to us so that we could weigh in rather than speaking directly to the authority asking to answer this question. So I think they know it's pretty serious, and that also there's a support of our local government, which is the authority.
Yeah, I'm happy to withdraw. I think it's outrageous what they're doing. But thanks, Betty, for doing this.
Yeah, no, it was a great mystery that was a prize that no one could explain it. But Mark, is your hand up?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to mention that when we mentioned it, when I asked at the full board meeting, even though it's a little better change for them, they can still get tickets. And there used to be, or there are areas where there are signage where it can say no permit zone. In other words, permits hurler is not supposed to park there. So they were supposed to get back to us on that. DOT, have they? And can we on that?
Yes, they did, and they said there is no signage of that sort at this time.
Did they explain that the explanation the answer we wanted was why is that been withdrawn? Which we need to find out, and then they have to have it re-implemented. I mean,
We can take a look, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we'll take that. That goes into the questions that we can handle on the district manager side. You know, we can have Lucian follow up on that. I appreciate that. That's a good remembering.
all right.
So
Thanks.
you're welcome. Betty, so are we changing implores to demands or urges?
I think implores would be more effective. I don't think you need to demand. They weren't opposed. They've already been approached about this issue. They merely said, let the community board weigh in first. They're as mystified as we are as why the change occurred. Like I said, there's no record, and they were open about that.
Sorry, me again. I'd even say immediately, not as quickly as possible. That's just me. Sorry.
So Betty, you said no on demand. How do you feel about immediately instead of as quickly as possible?
I mean, do we need to be debating adverbs and whatnot? Let's just call the question.
Yeah,
It's a very effective.
I'm good with that.
Accept the or reject.
Yeah, she just has to make a decision. Then I definitely think we should call the question. I second that.
I think that makes the idea. You're talking about 6 or half a dozen. It's like if it'll make some people happy.
I think it goes better with the wording that we use as a general. So yeah, it's a team. It gets it through. Let's roll with the minor changes and call the vote as requested.
Any seconds?
Second.
Brittany, take it away.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving
and that's
on.
The end of transportation.
Betty, thank you so much. Moving on to Mr. Cannell. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi, everybody. 2 items to go over quickly. First is a 2-part application by the owners of 240 Greenwich Street, which is also known as 101 Barclay. This is at the corner of Greenwich and Barclay and Murray Streets. It's a rather large full block building that wraps around, surprising to me at least, that the property itself wraps around to the plaza that is to the north side of the DC 37 building. The application seeks really 2 things, one which was not very controversial and one which was very controversial. So first on the slides, if we can go Diana down and show some of the exterior plantings. The application is asking for a modification, a minor modification to the special permit that was issued on the property for a prior ULURP to do 2 things. One, to achieve some proposed modifications to the outdoor space, the outdoor areas of the project site. That's what we'll look at first. It consists of a number of public amenities, but what they want to do is create a 23,800 square foot public access area, or PAA, which would include new seating, plantings, and some other amenities, most of which would be contained within the northwest corner of the property, which is the corner of West and Murray. It's kind of a dead zone plaza right now, but they propose to turn it into a public plaza called Alexander Hamilton Place. The other portion of the application and the controversial part would be to eliminate the reference to a public lobby. So let's take that second portion first. It's a little less controversial. And in the slides here, you see some renderings of, go up one, Diana, 1 or 2. You can see some renderings of what the proposals themselves would look like. Committee members were concerned about how the aesthetic of the exterior improvements work with the quote-unquote public lobby on the inside, and felt there should be some relationship to that. They should really lean into it. There's concern about a city bike station that currently exists within that plaza just to the north of the DC 37 building. It's a heavily used city bike station, both by workers and residents in the area and those visiting the ball fields. There's no current plan to keep that city bike station or return that city bike station after the renovations are done. That's something that the committee was concerned about. We're also concerned about a number of bollards that are going to be placed outside the red dashed property line that you see here on the screen, but nevertheless all around the site. It's the applicant's claim that they need this for security. It's a large international major bank building. It's going to be the subject of a future DOT application that will come before the community board, but we wanted to take the opportunity as well to express some issues with that. And another concern was right here at the west portion of the property, DC 37 building, and whether they, as a great institution within our community, been consulted. So we took this application and split it into 2 because there was a lot of controversy around the second part that I'll talk about in a second. And it was really unclear why this applicant, other than opportunity was is coupling together the exterior improvements to the property that any commercial property owner would want to do after 30 or 40 years with this controversial issue of the public lobby on the interior. So we split our resolution into two, and hopefully everybody has seen that. And you can see the second part of the resolution deals with the modifications to the exterior and therefore be it resolved. Effectively says we like that plan, we encourage it, and we on the several conditions of the issues that I just mentioned. The first part of the plan, the controversial part relating to the public lobby, was a big no-go for our committee. There is a long history about how that public lobby designation came to be between the 1980 original plans from the Washington Street Urban Renewal Area project to minor modifications that were made in 1990 around the time that the building was actually built. And the long and the short of it is originally, and Diana, if you can go up a couple of slides to show that floor plan picture drawing of the original ground floor. The long and the short of it is originally this building was to have elevated public walkways that would go over Murray Street and over Barclay Street to the World Trade Center site. The public lobby, according to the applicant, was a function meant to serve those public walkways. Because those public walkways in the 1990 amendment were removed and not built, the applicant's position is that there was really no need for this lobby to be public. But nevertheless, in the drawing, it was denominated as a public lobby, and it was in fact built as a public lobby. And again, you can see the history of the owners of the building, the original developers, and then when the city of New York owned it, and then Bank of New York formally bought it a couple of years ago, of issues about allowing the public access to it. And many of you may remember as we visited the POPs issues over the years that the comptroller Stringer in 2017 issued an audit report on DOB's enforcement of compliance of privately owned public spaces, POPs. And this site at 101 Barclay was featured prominently because it was one of the more egregious cases where a POPs, as the city has it denominated, was left unused by the public. So ultimately the committee came down and after some debate over the history and whether bonuses and any other benefit was given to the developer originally for provision of a public lobby, we just voted that portion of it down. That's what the resolution reflects. Now, I want to point out that in response to questions and concerns that were raised by the committee, the applicant did get back to us in a letter today with a couple of things that I think are worth mentioning. There were questions about regarding the exterior of the property, how many street vendors there were. The applicant represents that there were 4 to 6 street vendor carts typically pre-COVID, that there haven't been any located there since, but that all of those remained outside the property line in any event. There was a question about the plan to include new bike racks, new DOT type bike racks, etc., in terms of the exterior improvements. There are currently no bike racks apart from that very important, as I mentioned, city bike docking station along the property. And the applicant is proposing 4 bike racks of their own and 3 DOT bike racks. Each hold 2 bikes. So it's a total of 14 bike parking spaces. The applicant also wrote in its letter that they dispute the debate and some of the points that our committee members had at our meeting. And effectively, I'll just read you a couple of points that the applicant has made in response to concerns and conclusions raised by members of the committee. And the applicant notes that the building is underbuilt relative to the applicable maximum permitted floor area under a C6-4 district zoning mapped on the site and does not incorporate any form of quote unquote bonus floor area. The applicant goes on to note that while there were modifications of height and setback regulations The City Planning Commission made, quote, specific statutory findings that certain parts of the regulations were met. And according to the applicant, quote, none of these findings provided that the height and setback modifications were accepted in exchange for provision of a POPs space. With great thanks to the help of Allison and other architects on our committee, we were able to delve into the history of it a little bit more. And we think, while we're not interested in litigating the issue, we think the city absolutely has an obligation not to simply waive the designation of a public lobby, but to assert any defenses that the city may have. And if the applicant wants to challenge it in court, by all means do it. But we don't think that it's the kind of thing that, one, belongs in this application. It's the wrong time to bring it up. And it could have been brought up many, many years before. And two, nevertheless, there is evidence to suggest that, in fact, there were benefits that were derived to the owner, to the developer originally, and that nevertheless, this has been denominated for the better part of 3 decades as a POPs site. And in fact, if you go to the city Department of City Planning's own website, it's listed and has for many years been listed as a POPs, specifically to be open 24 hours. So I've gone on and on, but would be happy to answer some questions, and we'll call this resolution. So let's start with Andrew.
Thanks, Patrick. A couple of quick questions. Can you clarify where they were proposing that outdoor build with the amenities that you mentioned?
Yeah, we go up in the top left corner of this drawing that you see on your screen. There's this plaza at the corner of West and Murray. There you see in the bottom right, you see it sort of from a heightened vantage point.
So there's currently a driveway to get to the parking garage in that building itself, as well as a parking lot for, I guess, this DC building?
I don't think it's used as a parking lot. It's really just a sort of an unused blank concrete space, but there is an access there for the garage. That's true. And there's, I guess, a single curb cut that they're proposing to turn into 2, and they'll have some provision of security barriers and whatnot to keep 2 spaces protected.
Okay, thank you. And then, so I worked in this building for 20 years. After 9/11, well, and there was never any public access or activity, at least during my time there. After 9/11, they closed off the entrances at Barclay Street completely. You could not come in or out of that building at exit. And they also limited the entrance or the doors on Murray Street for exit only. Do you know, did they comment if that's still the case, such that the only point of entry was really Park Place?
They didn't comment specifically whether there's more than one point of entry. The issue that we spent a lot of time on is the access overall, and whether at any given time in history members of the public were allowed in. Some members of the committee and other members of the board remember being able to get in there, if not to go get a newspaper or a cup of coffee before 9/11. But after that, it seemed to have been closed. And once the comptroller's report came out, there seemed to be some renewed allowance to let the public into the space, but albeit through a labyrinth of security. And then some of us tried to go over, in the couple of weeks before the application came onto our committee, and were denied. They cited COVID reasons for having been closed.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Bruce, then Colin, then Susan, please.
Yeah, this came up in committee, and I feel compelled to bring it up here. The CB1 was to contact DC 37 about this. They did not answer straight questions. They said they informed DC 37. I want to point out that, in fact, that plaza, we're looking at this from the height of Apollo. On the ground, that plaza is used by DC 37 members, the thousands of members for whom this has been their headquarters, as a gathering point. Yes, it's not a bank headquarters gathering point. It's simply a trade union worker congregation point, which we are overlooking. It's great to have a tribute to Alexander Hamilton for the bank, but engulf and devour should not be engulfing and devouring one of the greatest trade unions in the United States without their input. There should be a statue to Lillian Roberts, one of the greatest civil rights leaders in the United States ever, who's 92 years old and was the head of DC 37. We are ignoring that. And the number 5 entry in the be it further resolved that is prevaricating. I think it should be much stronger. Or we should, in fact, contact DC 37 as promised in the committee before we go forward. That was the idea.
Yeah, so Diana has reached out. Diana, do you have an update?
So Francis provided me with a contact at DC 37. I did reach out a couple of times since the meeting, but they have not responded to me. So if we want to make that provision related to DC 37 stronger, I think that's great. But they've not provided a response to me.
I think that's great. We're going ahead and saying that this is all fine. Their tribute to Alexander Hamilton, which that's all great, but we've heard nothing from DC 37. Their claim is that although this has been DC 37's front yard for about 35 years, that they don't technically own the land underneath the plaza. So my feeling is that before we go forward, we do need to insist that DC 37 have a stake at the table, or else make number 5 much stronger.
Okay. Before we go into Colin and Susan, I want to point out, I forgot to mention that I was given a friendly amendment before the meeting, which I think is helpful and clarifies number 4 of the second part of the resolution, where we're talking
Patrick,
about, yes?
Could we have the slides changed to put the resolution up as long as we're moving on to dialogue about that? There you go. Thank you.
There we go. Perfect. So we're talking about number 4 here. So number 4 would read with the friendly amendment, CD1 strongly opposes the addition of numerous bollards planned for the periphery of the site located in the public right-of-way. CB1 urges the applicant to work with the relevant government agencies to design security measures that can be achieved with the plantings and other landscape elements to create a secure area within their property line. The 2 points of clarification on that, as we discussed at our committee level, were that the bollards were currently existing in the public right-of-way, which is a huge problem, or proposed to be in the public right-of-way, which is a huge problem, and that the applicant says there is a security need and this will be part of a future application. So we think that obviously that's got to be something that's verified in a government review of security issues. So that's the friendly amendment that I have agreed to accept with regard to number 4. So sorry about that. And with that, Colin, then Susan and Rosa.
Yeah, just really quickly for clarification, according to the Tribeca Citizen, they did shut down their doors after 9/11. They remained shut until 2018, and then they shut down back again in late 2018. So ostensibly, they've been closed for 18 of the past 20 years, just so people are clear on that, despite legally being required to be open to the public. Number 2, Patrick, if you recall, not sure who that is, great. Patrick, if you recall, I asked them the question if they would still build this plaza if we were to remove that first question from the resolution, meaning could we eliminate the PUP? And I'm paraphrasing here, but they essentially said, we're not sure, we'd have to rethink that. So for me, I personally voted for or against this, but against their proposal because of that answer. I found that pretty offensive. And before people vote on that, I think they should know that at least my characterization of coming away from that conversation was they're not sure they want to do this plaza if they can't have the PUP removed. I think that's an important piece of information to pass on.
Yeah, and that's really why the first, therefore be it resolved of the resolution, why there's such strong objection to the way that this application has been presented to the community board. It's really 2 distinct actions, or it should be treated as 2 distinct actions. One has nothing to do with the other. And to Colin's point, we asked them point blank, why can't you achieve the second part, the beautiful outside, without, removing the public lobby designation? And there was no answer other than, well, we want to do it. And to Colin's point, the inverse is if they can't get one, will they not do the other? And they weren't clear. So Susan, then Rosa.
I'd just like to say, I attended the meeting and I was really proud of your committee and all of you. And I think you should be commended. There was lots of hard work and thought around this. I think the resolution, I read it through, I think it's terrific. And with Colin's point as well, and they were not forthcoming and they were a little disingenuous, which has become my favorite word. But anyway, I just wanted to commend everybody. I thought it was terrific. So there.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Let's go to Rosa, Jeff, and Francis.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I actually walked by the site the day after the meeting. I wasn't able to make it before, but I do actually walk by the building on a fairly regular basis, and they're totally lying when they say that there are no vendors that are currently there. Every single time I walk by there are at least 2 vendors right on the corner of Murray and Greenwich on the weekdays. So that's just plain wrong, and they have been there entire time that COVID has, been with us. So when I did try to access the lobby the day after our meeting, I was stopped from entering, past the gates by 3 different security guards, and all security guards reassured me that the only reason I was being stopped was because of COVID. When I objected and said that it, is listed as a public space, they said they were completely, cognizant of that, and they accepted that it was a public space and that I would, without COVID being here, I would actually have been allowed in. And they said that I would regain my access once, COVID was gone. So just to let you know. And in response to Colin's point about them not willing to commit to doing the exterior work, I really believe that that's just a negotiating tactic, and that when we vote, we should vote based on whether or not we want the exterior work to go forward, because it provides value to the neighborhood and it provides value to the building owner. So right. I think that, they won't necessarily say it because they really want to take the public designation off of the interior. They have nothing, no carrot to sort of, incentivize us other than this. But the reality is that there is value in doing the work for them. And I do believe that they will do the work regardless of whether we separate them or not. So we should vote that way instead of discouraging the exterior work to happen. That's all.
And so the resolution is carefully drafted. Well, first of all, we have to take the application that's before us and comment on that. But I think you're right. And there is maybe not explicit, but reference at least to the business, this being a business decision and a wise one for them to do that to their exterior. Thank you, Rosa. Jeff Galloway, Francis, and then Sarah.
Okay. I think the resolution is great. And I'll just add as a point of perhaps faulty memory, my old firm had an office in that building back in around 1989, 1990. And I know that I certainly freely went in and out of that lobby many, many times back in those days. And, it's you're talking about 30 years ago, so maybe my memory is faulty, but my recollection is that the public had full access at that time.
Thanks. Francis, then Sarah, then Mitch Fruman.
Thanks for that, Jeff, because I worked at DC 37 for a number of years. And yes, we had full access to that lobby because we used to go in there and buy coffee, and they had other vendors in the lobby. I think that after 9/11, they shut it down for security reasons, but it was very much open. And then after that, they wouldn't let anybody go through there. The other thing to comment on is number 5, the way it's written. I would just take out described. I mean, is this a friendly amendment? Described as, and just say DC 37, New York's largest public, blah, 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 and then take out the other as. And just make it a statement more than
so make it
sort of like,
right. That's fine. I think that achieves it. Sure.
Right. But again, definitely those the bank has, in my memory, has been very disingenuous to with DC 37. They're under a large transition with departments and moving and stuff like that. So I don't know why they haven't gotten back to you yet, but
Great, thank you.
that's fine.
All right. Sarah Cassell, then Mitch, then Alice.
I just wanted to add that, like Francis and Jeff, I've lived in the community for a long time and I've worked in that neighborhood. And I did go through that lobby regularly back then. Yes, there are vendors, as Rosa said, outside every day. That's my walk to my office. And the city bike is necessary. I can't tell you how many people use that. I use that station. It's without question a community amenity. And thank you, everybody.
Totally agree. Anybody who takes their kid to Battery Park Ball Fields knows how important that station is.
Oh, ridiculous.
Mitch and then Alice.
Hi, Patrick. Yes, I agree very strongly with everything that's on this resolution. I would just like to see if we can make one thing a little stronger, because it seems that whenever anybody like a major corporation wants something, they always use it under the guise of security. But without the extra bollards, the security hasn't changed in the last 20 years, or it's if anything, it's gotten better. So in point number 4, I was wondering how you would feel about taking away the last few words of that, or at a minimum, many fewer bollards, because that's very subjective and that could give them a little like, well, it's fewer to us, and just leave CB1 strongly opposes the addition of numerous bollards, and that speaks for itself without giving them an out of those last 5 or 6 words.
Yeah, sure. And I was thinking sort of the opposite, that if for some reason there was a disagreement that they could put vegetation there, then they would say, see, okay, now we're good to go for all these bollards. But that was me taking a little bit of license and drafting that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Patrick.
Oh. I don't know if I was on mute, but I think it's fine. Yes, we can remove the or many fewer bollards. I think that's.
Or at a minimum, many fewer bollards, just like take that out.
Sure.
Thank you.
Agreed. Alice, then Betty.
I want to thank you, Patrick, and Diana, and the committee so much for all the work that was put in on this. And, you know, I am personally very grateful. Anyway, what I really want to make sure I have here for the record is in a lot of the research that we've been doing, one thing that we've asked for on behalf of the community is the Washington Street Urban Renewal Plans. 1, 2, the data sheet from 1999 on the POPs at 101 Barclay Street, which should be at the DCP. And 3, the full set of drawings. And we have yet to receive these things. So I think this will help at least some of us better understand a little bit more of the history. And so I'm just hopeful that I know Diana has asked for this, that we can have this in short order. Thanks.
Thanks, Alice. Betty?
Sorry, I just want to clarify, you just accepted Mitch's comments, but they conflict with the fact that we already changed number 4.
So I think.
And those words aren't in the new version.
Okay. Even better.
I was going to say there.
Mitch, I think what I can do is I'll put the new version in the chat so he can see, and it accomplishes everything that we just said.
I believe you.
Okay.
I believe that. Yeah, that's as long as like we're on the same page, you know, not giving them that little out, because that last sentence is a little subjective, and I think we're on the same page. So thank you.
Yeah, I thought it still remained in the first revised number 4, but it doesn't. So even better. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, it looks like we have nobody else.
Can I call the question?
Please do.
I so do.
Can I second myself?
Second.
There we go. Brittany?
Great, awesome. Mentions?
Kettering abstains.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
Just one note, Jen, would you unmute the bottom phone number on the list?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Tammy, but I have to interrupt. A member of the public just asked if they could speak.
Not during the business session.
Can't speak.
Oh. Well, they can speak, but not during the business session. If they'd like to provide a comment or testimony to email to the office, that's fine. But during the business session, members of the public cannot, unless it's for clarification.
Got it. Thank you.
Zelter abstains.
Okay. Zelter abstain, and I have Kettering. Anyone else for abstain? Okay. Any opposed? Any recusals? Okay, great.
Can someone unmute Joe Capel, please?
Oh, yes.
He's unmuted. Joel, can you speak?
Vote.
Joel, are you there with us?
I'm sorry, I'm here. Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay. Thank you.
And then Mariama also has to vote orally, so she can be recorded for the record.
Jen, would you unmute Joe Lerner?
I'm a yes too. Thank you.
Yes, okay, perfect. Do we need a verbal vote from Joe Lerner?
In favor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last calls. Great, thank you.
Thanks. The only other item we had was an update on the borough-based jails, the Manhattan Detention Center, which I think, as you heard, or at least gleaned from Gigi's comments earlier, was a lot of stonewalling from the mayor's office. We had the representative of the Community Affairs Unit who showed up really unprepared to answer unprepared and unwilling to answer the multitude of questions that we've been asking for many, many months, over 20-some questions, and said that those would be revealed first to the NAC this week and then to the community board. And nevertheless, you heard Gigi's update earlier, so unless anybody has any questions about that, we're going to learn more in the coming
weeks. I don't have a picture. I don't get anything but the sound. So I called
Joe having some difficulties there. So Tammy, I'll turn it back over to you. I'm done.
Okay, thanks. Hey Joe, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh,
I
just got you back. I see it.
Yeah, and you know what, my friend Joe, I think I might, when the weather's nice, make a socially distant walk over to your house. Just bring me whatever you do the stuff on so I can show you how to make it work. I'll be in your lobby.
Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Moving on to the next committee. Thank you so much. Bruce Ehrman, take it away with landmarks.
Hi, we have two resolutions. One's fairly simple, 17 Battery Place, a very prominent building that you can't miss, especially, for instance, if you're taking the ferry from Staten Island. It's at the tip of Manhattan. This is, as the resolution describes, a infill of two of the entrance bays, which are already behind an arcade. And what we have, I believe, the proposal is certainly better than what's there now, that hodgepodge. Some of the board members felt that the massing for the window framing there in the center bay could be a little more sophisticated, which is mentioned in the resolution. And by the way, that's set back. That is not flush with what you see. There's an arcade between the classic facade and the entranceway. But by and large, it was acceptable, and we asked for a master plan in the future. That's 17 Battery Place. I can either take questions now or move on, or do both resolutions together. We'll get to the next one. What do you suggest?
Call the question.
Okay.
The question has been called, but Colin, you missed Bruce's question. He potentially could take them both together.
Oh, call both the question.
Okay, so we'll do the second.
But you must wait for him to present the second one to do that. Would you like to withdraw your call for question?
No. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Second one. And Susan and Jeff, do you have questions or do you want to put your hand down? Is that from previous issues?
I want to put my hand down.
I'll put my hand down.
Okay. Second one, to our surprise and amazement, Howard Hughes made a presentation, excuse me, for signage, I'm sorry, on the tin building. And we were all holding our breaths. And as you will see by the vote, we were very impressed. First of all, it's a very good design firm, Roman and Williams, who don't take any crap in terms of their designs being value engineered out. And all I can say is that it was amazingly appropriate. I understand that Cheryl had trepidation and was surprised by our vote, but there you go. When it's good, it's good. The only issue I had was the monogram TB for tin building. I thought it sounded too much like tuberculosis, but I was overruled. Those are the two resolutions. The other thing I do want to say before we vote, just one sentence. I want to thank Tammy and I want to thank Jason, Alice, Paul Goldstein, all the people who helped write a wonderful resolution to LPC about 250 Water Street, and against tremendous economic and political pressure. I believe they took our side at the full LPC board meeting and even quoted us without crediting us. So.
Yeah, they quoted me.
Yes, they quoted Joe. So now, pursuant to Collins, could we please put the therefore be it resolves up? And the question has been called. If we have no standing questions.
Any questions? Wow.
Second.
Yes. If we can, do we have therefore be for screen? Nope, we don't. But everyone has heard and seen. So Brittany, roll. Thank you.
Sure. Yep. Any abstentions? Any opposed? Any recusals? Okay, thanks.
Bruce, thank you very much for all your hard work. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everybody on the committee. We really appreciate it. The Landmarks Committee had, nothing like a magnifying glass stuck on them for the last 2 months. So thank you. Moving on, Ms. Cole, the fabulous Ms. Cole, licensing.
Oh, yes. Very quickly, we will have a resolution from our committee regarding the executive order for outdoor eating and sidewalk cafes and whatever at the February meeting. So what I'd like to do to move this along is that the Tribeca, 111 Worth Street, if you read the resolution, is not a problem, and the Governor's Island application for their liquor license for the spa, which we talked about a number of years ago, which is an Italian spa, and we put their hours in. They're going to have special ferry service to take people back and forth. It will be open to the public. It is not going to be a club. And we voted both of those, the committee. So I would like, if there are no questions on them, I'd like to take them or answer the questions and get through that very quickly. So we could do Cocoon at the end.
Call the question.
I heard a question called. I see no hands up. So Brittany, take it away.
Second.
Sorry, just for clarity, which
They are 111 Worth Street and Andes Road, Governor's Island, both of those.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Okay, great. Thank you.
So, Cocoon, 316 Greenwich. I hope you all had a chance to read the lengthy, I'm sorry for it, resolution, but the whereases are pretty explicit. The community was very concerned about this place. This was the second time we had seen them. They came before us before. They have a concept of having a space where parents can have a drink and their children I think mostly toddlers or young children, maybe up to 7 or 8, can romp around and the parents can drink. So we put in a number of things, but we never got a clear, concise business plan. And the biggest fear for everybody was that they would not be able to sell this place and take this beer and license and somebody turn it into a liquor, a bar with parties and whatever, because this is on really the people's side of Independence Plaza. There are lots of bars across the street, lots of restaurants. They all deal with it. This was very specific, and there's community space upstairs in Independence Plaza. So that's why we worked very hard on this resolution. So if people want to ask me questions, I'm fine with it. You can see what it says. We wanted really to go on record to be to state clearly our concerns, and I hope we did it. Mariana?
Yeah, I just want to say I really just supported this resolution at committee for the purpose of lending my portion of giving us a voice on the issue. But otherwise, I just really felt like it's like a cesspool for COVID. People in this enclosed space, restaurant owners do not have the same privilege. We have our restaurants really suffering in the area because they can only have outside dining. And then you have this place with people drinking inside because it comes under a different classification, and you got babies and kids. It just I was really bothered by that with regard to the health, potential health impacts and ramifications that could have, not only for those that are inside, but with whomever they may encounter when they leave. But I did not want us to lose our opportunity to speak on the resolution and have the, licensing commission, do what they will. And so I supported it. But if enough people support it here tonight, then I won't. I'll vote no, just for the sake of voting no, because I really think it's not a good idea.
Well, as I always say to everybody, when you think about your voting, what we put in this resolution gives us a say. When we vote down a resolution, the SLA ignores us totally. So do remember that, everybody.
So I would want I would want our resolution, not our resolution to pass. So if it needed more yeses, of course I would support it. But if I could get away with a no because enough people are supporting it, I'm going to.
Okay, thank you. I want everybody also to read that we were very concerned they couldn't explain about being a membership organization like Spring Studios and whatever. That's why we put the comments we put in the whereases in the resolution. And that's all I have to say. Alice? You had your hand up.
Hi, Susan, and I want you to know I did read this very carefully prior to the meeting. And I do have some questions. I'm not quite, I know I had raised with you that point about it being, that for me personally, I think it's unfortunate that you have a private club on this major corner that was once a really useful grocery store, and that not everybody can walk in and use this space, which takes up 18,000 square foot corner. It's not an insignificant public corner. So I think, just on that level, it's, I wouldn't have voted for it for use of space, but that said, it's nice that I guess something goes in there. But what I'm not understanding, is if it's a private club, then it can have it can serve liquor legally to its members. So
that's correct. But we don't know. We tried the SLA. We couldn't get a ruling. There were questions we had. So this is what we came up with to get this out.
But your point here, and therefore be resolved, just so I understand it, is, first of all, I don't understand what the mission-driven business means exactly? What is
Well,
that?
they're mission driven. They want their concept, the way they described it to us, Alice, was that they want a place for parents and childcare to have freedom to have a drink. And this is a place for people to have prenatal, postnatal classes. And when we asked them for their questions, they couldn't ever give us real answers. But I was not approving their business plan. We were not approving their business plan. What we're approving is they're entitled, if they're either membership or non-membership, the way I understand it, they can have beer and wine. But we wanted it to be specific. I think if it's if you're a membership, you don't have to take people from the street. If you're not a membership, you do have to have it open. And the SLA can clarify that even better than we can.
So you want to say that it's only if the SLA can ensure that it's not open to the public that you would approve it? I guess that's what.
No, we're not. If it's a membership club, I can prove it as well. But it's.
I guess I just don't understand the first there before being resolved. But if everyone
we need to clean it up a little bit.
So it should say that it is not open to the public there, not that it is.
Well, Alice, that's the problem. That's why it sounds like it does, because they couldn't tell us.
Okay.
And that's why I said in there that they're very unclear, and that's why I tried to put it to the best of our ability. And it is vague, but we don't know. I can tighten it up, or if people want somebody.
No, I mean it says it. Hold on. I think it's clear what we're saying. We are saying that if it is represented as a membership private club, we are approving it. If it is open to the public, we are not. Because this is different
than
the bars and restaurants. Correct?
Correct.
That's the way I understand this.
That's
and
the
I
did not. We just need to tighten it up, Alice, and I'll look at it.
Susan, I think you guys are missing one point. Like, I was also confused in the meeting, but then when you went on the website, we went on the website. Some of the members of the board needs to go on their website, because what convinced me to support this was it seemed that there was lots of like courses and classes for like preschool families and preschool families. And while it's membership driven, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, but they said that like a non-member could like buy a day pass to attend some classes, correct?
Yes, that's what we have in the resolution.
Right, so I think we covered most of the bases, but we shouldn't, like, it wasn't like a bar restaurant that's like using some kids' classes as a cover. It seemed to me from the website, unless they're totally BSing, that it was more of a real preschool learning type of experience, where if a mother or father wanted to have a glass of wine or a glass of beer while their kids were having like, and the classes were actually like a Spanish class or a yoga class or a math class. That's the impression that I got.
Well, that's why we tried to cover all the bases in the resolution. And that's why it's a little fluffy at points, but we tried to get it all so that we're not approving it, but we like the concept of the children, but they were not clear. But
Susan, one other question for you. Wasn't it confirmed to us, because one of the concerns we had was that if the business plan doesn't work, could somebody else use that for something else that we wouldn't like? But I think it was brought up that that couldn't be done. Then they would have to come back to us. Is that correct?
Yes, but we also put it in the resolution that we don't want it to happen. Francis, okay. Thanks, Mitch. Francis?
I know. I was just going to bring up the fact that the membership was like $6,000 or something, some outrageous
for the month.
amount. Yeah, and the fact that if you're saying someone could buy a day pass, they can buy a day pass to go in and drink. Actually,
but they said they was going to allow that. They only were going to allow you if you wanted to take the classes. Remember, they did say that.
But if you come in with your kid and you buy the day pass and you sit down and you let your kid do whatever and you drink, and that's it, instead of buying the membership. But also on the website, even though they have all these classes and stuff listed, there wasn't, Mitch, they weren't completely, they didn't have a program for the early
Childhood.
yeah, they didn't have that.
It
Wasn't
was very vague.
Okay.
it was soon to come or something like that, but it wasn't outlined as well as the other classes were.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, hi. So I just want to clarify for everybody exactly what this is. I mean, I'm not a member, but I have my kids are the ages of where potentially our family could be members of a place like this. It's essentially a kids club. I don't know if you're familiar with Play Garden, which is in the neighborhood, which has never applied for a liquor license to my knowledge. But this is just essentially a kids club where they have a big play space and families become members, not to necessarily drink. I mean, I highly doubt that any caregiver or parent is going to go in there and get drunk. They're essentially going in there and they're watching their kids play, or they're taking a class, maybe a prenatal or a postnatal class, and they may have a glass of wine, but no one's taking a 2-year-old there and getting really drunk and making a ruckus. I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it's not exactly like the DCC, but imagine, because it's a different model entirely, but imagine sort of similar classes to what you would have at the DCC, let's say. And the membership model for this place, and, again, I'm not a member, so I'm not entirely sure. I can't talk with any certainty, but the membership model is essentially you pay up front, whatever amount that Francis was saying for a year, and then you essentially have a free indoor play space for your kids. And so Play Garden, I would say, is the closest model to this. There was also another kind of kids play space more in North Tribeca that I think recently closed. I think it was called The Wonder. That was also similar to this. And they are pretty popular in Tribeca and in FIDA. And I think a lot of young families like to go to these places. It's members only in the sense that, you join or you pay a fee to go in. You join as a member and you pay, through a yearly fee, or, you pay for a class or two and go in. It's really very kids oriented. And I'm almost surprised that they applied for a liquor license, but I guess they want to have that, that option.
Well, it's wine and beer. So,
wine
yeah.
and beer, I guess.
Yeah, it's not liquor at this moment.
So I know everyone sort of had a lot of questions about what this type of place is. That's essentially what it is. I don't know if that, that clarifies it for anyone.
I think have you gone through all the questions? I apologize, I lost track. If so, can we call the question?
No, I think there's Joe Lerner and Mark.
Okay.
But Mark, we put your piece in. What do you want to say? And Rosa.
Yeah. All right. I questioned every which way to Sunday about how they are going to deal with, say, someone who's drunk or inebriated with regards to the children. They gave answers. I wasn't 1,000% happy with how they answered it, but they do have some kind of plan. And the other thing, we're kind of teetering on. It has to do with quality of life, and the method of operation of the establishment affects other people in the neighborhood for their quality of life as such. Then we can start making judgments about the type of business. This type of business will probably have zero effect on the quality of life in the neighborhood with regards to rowdiness and all the other things that we're concerned about. So we got to be careful about making moral judgments here on the method of operation. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. As you know, there's an age gap here. Elizabeth said it clearly. So thank you, Elizabeth. Rosa, you want to say something, please? And then Joe, and then I think we're done.
Yes. Hi. So I agree 100% with Elizabeth's comments about what this is. It's essentially just like a yuppified indoor playground for kids. And there are a lot of models of what that is around the city. And honestly, if you wanted to go grab a drink and you didn't have a kid, you would run screaming from this place because there would be so many
Thank you,
children
Rosa.
screaming.
True, Rosa.
You
so
would be
true.
absolutely insane to want to have a drink in this place. The only reason why you would go there is because you have no other choice because you have young children. So I don't think it's going to be like a hipster bar where you go and hang out and have a relaxing time. It's a place where you go.
No way.
Oh my God, what have I done?
Oh, thank you, Rosa. Thanks very much. Joe? Thanks, Rosa. Joe?
Yeah. So I'm wondering why you must have a drink when your kid is playing for a couple of hours at a place.
It's because you're old. I'm sorry, you don't get to ask that question. We're old. It's a different generation. It's a different world. And if you want to have your kid around, you have your friends over in the evening and you have drinks with your friends and your kids are playing. So it's a little like that for people who may have small spaces and want to go somewhere and meet a friend. We gotta be a little.
Exactly. Listen, we're not here, guys. Guys,
Can I finish? I would like to finish, if I may.
Yes, sorry.
You can make it a social place for the parents and sell imported water. Why must you have liquor? I'm wondering, and I'm surprised some of the people who live there are wondering, what's going to happen in the future where they have this license to sell and maybe the school is not valid anymore or whatever. I think it's a dangerous precedent.
Well, you read, okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Me.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it says, and especially if you want to charge, I don't know what, someone said $6,000 to join a club. It should be $6,000 to share in learning experiences, not to join a club. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, Susan.
What?
Thank you. That was where I was going. Okay.
I think.
Point of order. We've already exceeded. Call the question.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Lee, that puts you on.
Sorry, I was talking on mute. Opposed.
Turner is opposed.
Mahoney opposed. But not for the reasons others are opposed. I think we should let them do what they want. Sorry.
Okay, I have Werner and I have Mahoney. Any other opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm opposed.
Oh, sorry, who's that?
That was Jill Coppell.
Oh, okay.
James opposed.
James. Got you. Anyone else for opposed? Okay. Any abstentions?
Curtis abstains.
Okay. Thank you. Any other
Thanks, Joyce
abstentions?
abstains.
No.
Joyce, I have. Any other abstentions? Any recusals? Okay, thank you.
Brittany, I'm sorry. Could you read me those numbers real quick?
Okay, so we have 4 opposed, 2 abstain, 0 recused.
Thank you.
Keep going, Susan.
That's it. The rest are reports. They're all fine. We can move right along.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That puts us to Battery Park City. Justine is excused for the night. So we are going to have Lucian Reynolds, our district manager, give us the Battery Park City report tonight.
Hello again, everyone. I'm going to go through a couple of these items. If any members of the BBC committee want to add in any additional color or information or detail on any of these items, please feel free to raise your hands. So I'm just going to start with the South Battery Park City resiliency-related control houses in the public right-of-way, which is a resolution. Do we have that as a slide?
I have the resolution, but I have the photos that Justine sent. Do you want to go through those first?
Yes, yes. So the main thrust with this resolution is that the residents of Battery Park City are very concerned about the impact that these very large control houses will have on view corridors, as well as safety, lighting, what have you. The current public spaces, as they are currently enjoyed, were not designed with these gatehouses in mind. So anywhere you put them within the current public right of way, as you know, in Battery Park City, will visually disrupt what is currently enjoyed by the residents. So it's certainly a desire of the committee that the Battery Park City Authority works with its partners in state government and in city government to locate alternative sites for these gatehouses if possible. And there's a number of suggestions, and feasibility is unknown of these suggestions, such as the parking garage or other locations kind of more within the highway infrastructure. So just going to the therefore be it resolves of this resolution. Quite simple. The Battery Park City Committee, CB1, respectfully requests that alternate locations for the control houses be explored by ACOM and the Battery Park City Authority to accommodate the needs and concerns of the downtown community. Now, Sarah Cassell, Bob Schneck, Jeff, is there any information that I have left on the table here that'd be important for this resolution?
No, that's good.
No, I think that's
you did.
fine.
Yeah, I think you did fine.
The only point I would add is that AECOM itself apparently looked at an alternative location within the right of way, and the reasons given at one of the meetings for not choosing that alternative seem to be just bureaucratic difficulties of having to work with multiple agencies as opposed to real structural prohibitions, although perhaps there are real structural issues there, but we very much want them to look for alternatives outside of the public spaces.
And they have not been forthcoming. If there are actual real objections physically to having the structures in other places, and it's very, very disruptive where they have them now. I don't know if you've all read it, but if you picture the giant, they're very large. It's obtrusive in every instance and obliterates some very common play areas, and it's wrong. It could be done better, differently.
So I made a note to make sure that we get this resolution to lots of our elected officials so we can hopefully foster a very well-rounded conversation around overcoming any kind of bureaucratic obstacles.
Thank you.
Yeah. And although it's stated in the resolution, you didn't mention it in your summary, we're not disputing the need for these control houses or the need or the benefit of the drainage that these things would operate. We're simply objecting to the particular locations that they're suggesting.
Yes.
The important word is explore. And I think that's, we're recognizing that there are limited options, but we really want to make sure that every single option has been carefully weighed and ruled out before we see them placed in some of the more sensitive areas to the community.
Yes.
I leave it to
Lucian. I just have one comment, and that's I had my hand raised. And that is only that it is really important we move this resolution along and we get it to all possible agencies as well as the mayor's office and the governor who has say over BPCA, because we found out this week on the Lower Manhattan climate meeting that we are on, that Battery Park City, for this part of the project, they are 95% done.
What?
Yeah. Sarah?
I'm sorry, I'm just outraged.
So if you, I encourage you all to go to the next environmental committee meeting to hear this conversation. Okay, and with that, I'll shut up.
Call to question?
Would you handle that? As I'm not a member, I don't want to exceed my...
Brittany, I second it, and Brittany, can you let it roll?
Yep. Any abstentions? Any recusals? Great, yeah.
Perfect. Lucian, pursuant to our new rules, you have 5 minutes
I just received
for
a note
reports.
from Nick that the design for the control houses, luckily, is not at 95%. So we'll have to just get a little bit more of an explanation from him on where that is. We still need to have some impact there. So moving along, Oval Park, Pump House Park signage, this is actually already yielded a positive result based on the committee's discussion around this and really unanimous opposition to the signs that were posted earlier after the renovation of Pump House Park. The sign had read that certain activities were prohibited, such as ball playing, and it was pretty clear that everyone was not happy with those posted rules. We had a call after with Alex Licio from Brookfield, where he told us that he'd already pulled the signs down. He said that he would love to work with the committee to come up with better guidelines for using the park. I think there's a lot of, it sounded like in that call, there's a lot of shared values in terms of what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed, but certainly people ought to be able to play with their children. And it didn't seem that Brookfield had any opposition to that. So I think that this will be likely a agenda item for a soon upcoming meeting. There's good, we're off to a good start with this item. So thanks to Brookfield. Last is the ground rents and condominium affordability in DPC. This is a very timely discussion. It was well attended, and there were 2 different homeowner groups who were given the floor to speak to their respective strategies for tackling affordability with the reality that the ground rent is driving some complexity to that. And I'm really simplifying, because the ground rent conversation is a very, very complex one. And there's a lot of navigating that has to be done in terms of how does the city and the state all work together to improve outcomes, whether by reforming property taxes, how they're levied, by recalculating how the ground rents are taken into the assessed value of the condominiums themselves. It was definitely a very interesting conversation that is very unique to Battery Park City in that way. So looking forward to hearing how that progress goes, and of course that committee's very much engaged in that conversation. So with that, Tammy, I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you very much. We'll go back to now Paul Goldstein. You're up for Waterfront Parks and Cultural. And just so everybody remembers, we're doing awesome tonight. You have 10 to 15 minutes for a resolution and 5 minutes for a report. If it's a smushed together thing, you're at 15 total if we can get there.
It'll be a lot quicker. It will be, the resolution should not take much time. Basically, Bogartis Plaza was recently completed in December. It was a plaza, it is a plaza in Tribeca. It's been under construction since 2017. So this resolution is just intended to praise and thank the Department of Design and Construction Community Liaison, who was assigned to the project, who did very diligent work, was easy to work with, very responsive. She really set a high bar, and we just thought it would be nice to give some recognition to her now that, for a job well done. So I don't know that there's much more that needs to be said. Her name is Marcia Guido, and she is, I think, personally very deserving of a little bit of praise.
Call to question.
Second.
Awesome. Any
Amaruso
abstention?
opposed.
Oh, okay, got it. Any other opposed? Okay. Any abstentions? Any recusals? Okay.
Okay, moving along. I guess we could go through any slides that we have. Okay, so the next item was a presentation by Leslie Koch, who is president of the World Trade Center Perlman Performing Arts Center. As many of you know, this is the Performing Arts Center going up at the World Trade Center. It's been in the course of construction for some time. It was unfortunately delayed just a bit. They had to call off construction from March to June, so they're a little behind schedule. They're now expecting to complete towards the end of 2022. And one of the other major announcements, other than showing us the progress that is being made, was that Michael Bloomberg is now the chair of the board for this organization, and one of his main functions is to raise money to make sure this gets completed. They are getting quite a bit of their money from the LMDC, but they do need to raise some private funds to get this done. It's going to have very diverse programming, and the lobby is going to be an active area for the public to just walk through, see impromptu performances there. And Leslie described it as almost like a living room where people can join them. So that's pretty much the story on the Performing Arts Center. Coming along, good news. Okay, here we go, Hudson River Park. You're looking at the tide deck, which is at the end of the new Pier 26. It's basically, we just got updates. Nothing too dramatic was presented. We got reports from people about River Project, how that's coming along, the tide deck. Again, that's an area where you could walk along and you could see nature at work at the end of the pier. A lot of good reports coming in on that, and they're planning to do some more programming there. They told us about tours that they're going to try to set up, and for people to observe research on water quality and vegetation, etc. The estuarium, unfortunately, is really not coming along much. They haven't been able to raise much money to get that moving. And probably the biggest news to come out of the meeting was a report that Madeline Wills is leaving her position as president of Hudson River Park Trust. She's been in that position for, I think, over 10 years. And we didn't really get an explanation as to why. I think a lot of people are just supposing that much of the construction of the park is done at this stage. But in any event, maybe more to come on that. And for now, Noreen Doyle, who's the second in command, will be temporarily in charge, and then they're going to do a search and try to find a new president in the next few months. So why don't we move on to the next item? which is the exonerated 5. Okay, so basically this was an issue brought to our attention by Board 10. We had a presentation by the chair of the board, Cecily Harris, as well as the chair of their Parks and Recreation Committee, Karen Horry. And it was basically about a very controversial criminal justice issue that came up many, many years ago. I mean, if you're from New York, you probably remember it. It was known back then as the Central Park 5 or the jogger case. There was basically a white young jogging woman who was attacked in the park and raped. And they went ahead and found 5 African-American young men, many of them teenagers. They charged them with the crime and they were convicted, and they served different sentences running from like 5 to 15 years, depending on their age. Many of them were just teenagers. I think they were all pretty much teenagers. So what ended up happening was, after they were convicted and most of them served their entire term, it was determined that they were not the ones who did the crime. And someone else who was imprisoned at the time admitted to the crime, and they did some DNA work, and lo and behold, that was the case. So Board 10 is interested in putting up a monument or some kind of commemoration in Central Park to point out the injustice that took place here, and the need for social justice reform, the need for the criminal justice system to recognize the racism and inequities that still takes place. I don't have to explain that too much. I think most of us are well aware of this problem that's come to our attention with George Floyd and so many other cases. So basically, the borough president recommended that Board 10 bring this around to all the community boards to get feedback. And our committee was unanimous in recommending that we write a letter in support of this project and say that we're in full support. So I think that pretty much covers that, but I could take questions on any of the items, or that's pretty much it.
I do see some hands up. I've got Joe, Rosa, and Bruce, and we'll go in that order. Mr. Lerner, you are first.
I didn't want to talk on this. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have Jen put your hand down for you.
Thanks.
And Bruce, you're next, and then Rosa.
I'll be quick. Just for a little color, I want to note that Donald Trump put out full-page ads demanding conviction of these Black young men, and after they were later on, after being jailed, found acquitted and falsely accused, he persisted in full-page ads accusing them nevertheless of this crime, even though they were found to be falsely tried. I just want to note that.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
You can take your hand down. I think Rosa took hers down. And so pursuant to the committee, a letter will come from the chair supporting their movement to have a commemoration in the park. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think are you then? I think that's it. We're moving on to Alice Blank. Thank you, Paul. Alice, you're up.
Okay, thanks, Tammy. This will be blissfully short. I'm going to point everyone to the letters that were written rather than give an entire report on the details of the draft scope of work. But what we accomplished was great. We did hear from both Howard Hughes and the Governor's Island Trust on their respective environmental impact statements. In the case of 250 Water Street, this was a draft scope of work, so we were talking about what we'd like to see included. And in the case of the Governor's Island, we were talking about what they have included, what they see as impacts, which are few, in fact, and what we might believe should be added to another review or to the final review, moreover. So I know there are two letters. One letter has already been written by us that I just want to ask Diana if you could clarify where those are posted so all could read them. They're not resolutions, so they are in letter form and they'll probably be helpful to read. They're quite detailed and comprehensive. And I want to thank Children's First, particularly in their input for the 250 Water Street. Or Diana or Lucian, if you could just let us know where those letters can be located. For all to read.
They're on the archive section of our website. I'll get a link in the chat.
Thanks a lot. And then the one on Governor's Island will be completed this week. And there we want to thank our consultant, George Janes, for a lot of input. This is not a detailed review, but a more schematic one, but I think will cover some of the main points that we feel need to be addressed, and many of them were addressed in our resolution. So between the letters and the resolutions on both these applications, I think the community board has done one heck of a job in trying to cover really, really important, impactful ground. So thanks to all.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's move on. And Diana, thank you for your work on that as well. Moving on, Trisha Joyce, you're up.
All right. We have two resolutions. I'll first start by saying that New York Public Library is indeed open for grab and go, which was fantastic news. So that's exciting, and hoping that everybody takes advantage of that. And then we have two resolutions that should not be too controversial, but I'll take them separately because they're super different. One is
Trisha,
yeah.
just to note that your last one, the school funding during the pandemic, is going to be a roll call, just so you know, because you were the last one. And then I do have two things under new business for people to, two quick updates, and then we'll adjourn. So people keep here. Thank you.
So our first one is brought to us by Jeff, and it's a very prescient resolution. We are trying to get ahead of the possibility of the Department of Education canceling the winter and spring breaks because of the late start to the school year, sacrifices to the curriculum that came inherently with remote learning and blended learning and all the challenges that the city has had in delivering education to our children. They did it last year, and it was a disaster because half of the people had already made their plans. It was, they made this strange recommendation that the people that had plans could go through with them, but the rest could go to school. It was a disaster, and they wanted to head it off at the pass. That's pretty much what this is. Both our kids and our teachers need to be able to count on these breaks. And especially with a lack of notice, if there's going to be any changes, it needs to be at the beginning of the school year. So this is just in support of not changing the school breaks. Any questions? All right.
I call the question.
Awesome. I'll second it.
Tammy, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
There was debate in our committee as to whether I had to abstain or not. I have no financial interest in this, but I am a school teacher.
And because the resolution works with DOE and UFT, you must abstain. I would tell Dennis Mahalski the same thing.
Then I abstain.
It's actually recuse.
Yes.
It's a
Thank you.
recuse.
I recuse.
Yeah.
It's a recuse.
I recuse.
Thank you. Forgot about that one. Brittany, take the vote.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain, Amoruso abstain.
Okay. Amoruso, I have. Who else?
McHugh abstain.
2.
Mahoney abstain.
Okay. Got McHugh, got Mahoney. Any others for abstain?
Airman abstains.
Airman, okay. Airman I have. Last call for abstentions. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Myhawk, I
Remove
have
my
your.
abstention. It's airman. I'm sorry. I just read more closely. I'm sorry. I vote for it. Bruce.
Okay, no problem. Myhawk, I have your recusal. Any other recusals?
Mahalski, recusal.
Okay. Any others? Okay, thank you.
All right. The next one is, I hope everybody had a chance to read it because there's some good information, good history here, but I'll try to sum it up quickly. Our principals are charged with predicting how many of the offers they make in the spring will actually turn up for school in September. And they actually have to be really good at this because if they get it wrong, they've hired teachers that if the kids don't show up, they then have to absorb in their budgets. And the DOE will only pay per pupil who is sitting in a chair as of October 30th. So as you can imagine, in this pandemic year, as gifted as our principals are for doing this already crazy thing, they had a very small chance of getting this right. There were parents who, when faced with remote learning and the uncertainty of what blended learning would look like, made the decision to take their families somewhere where kids were going to school. Or they decided to not even bother with blended learning and just sign up for remote learning and go somewhere where they had more space than they have here in the city. Whatever the decision was, we noticed a lot of attrition this year, as one would imagine. So this resolution asks that the DOE not require schools to give back the money, the per pupil funding, that they give the schools based on their projections of how many are showing up. They are required to pay the DOE back, if you can believe it, for getting it wrong. So if they say we're getting 300 children and they get 240, they're expected to reimburse the DOE for those 60 kids. This year, that number is even higher. And so we felt that amnesty for these budget paybacks are called for in this time. And that's what this resolution is about. Any questions?
Thank you for moving that up. I see Colin has his hand up. So we're going to go through questions. And remember, we do roll call at the end of this.
Sorry to do this, everybody. I know it's 9 o'clock, but I just have a question. As I understand it, and I don't understand that well, it's mostly schools with more affluent students that have seen the population loss. And there was an attempt by DOE to move that money towards more impoverished school systems. Is that accurate or no?
That would be news to me, Colin. I don't know that. And,
Colin, you're conflating the DOE's desire to take PTA money, PTA funds, and move them from school A to school B. That's where that was in the news, as far as I'm aware. This is specifically to DOE deficit repayment plan that affects any school that has a drop. So, i.e., any school, no matter whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, who had families leave because they did not like remote learning, will be having to pay back. And this is on top of after the DOE had many of them hire up to be able to accommodate remote learning.
I guess my question to pin this up then is, are we absolutely sure that this wouldn't damage the ability for the DOE to move money to more needy school systems?
well, I mean, our hope is that they repurpose it, Colin. You know, it's always a question of what bucket this money goes into. You know, per pupil funding is a combination of state and federal funds. And so there's no way of really knowing it, but you bring up a great point that we could, you know, once I do some research, we could possibly follow this up with a resolution with a request of what to do with those funds that are repaid. The bottom line is, and I should have included this, and it's in the resolution, is that generally how the schools handle this is they don't write a check for, you know, $160,000. They generally go on to a payback, you know, if you will, system where they'll pay it back in chunks, because not many schools, once you've hired the teachers, nobody has $130,000 sitting on hand, right? So they'll go into a payment plan with the DOE where they will pay a certain amount every month. And so that becomes a little more ambiguous, right, about how that would look redistributing it. I think the point of this resolution, and certainly we could bring up what you're talking about in committee because it's a really important point. The point of this resolution is just to say, for those schools, for whatever reason, had this attrition, that they should be excused, have amnesty from this payback system at all this year. There was no way they were going to be able to know how many were showing up. And it would put an unfair burden on schools trying to recover from this pandemic.
Can I say something here, please?
Let me just make my final thought. That's okay. I'm just going to abstain because I don't know enough about it. I think this is a pretty important resolution, and I would just need to know the facts before we can vote on it. Thanks.
It is, Colin, it is in the resolution. If you look at the whereases, it really describes pretty well, because I worked on it with Janine Kiley of CB2. It does describe pretty well how the system works. If you're still uncomfortable, that's fine. I would just, you have the option of going last if you want to take a look at it. And anybody else who isn't familiar with how the whole thing works. But certainly if you're not comfortable voting for it, that's fine too. Schools in our community board actually had a really significant impact in this area. And that's what we do, is represent our community board.
Jeff, hang on a quick sec. Jen or Lucian, or for Colin, if he doesn't have access to it, can you copy the resos back into the chat so you can click the link?
Yeah, I'm reading it, and I don't want to prolong this at all, which is why I signed up. But this is a deeper conversation than the resolution actually covers, but I'm voting the way I'm going to vote. Thanks.
And then so Jeff, and then Mitch Froman.
So the resolution simply says that schools have been given a budget in the fall, not be all of a sudden told their budget changed. So there's two ways it happens. There's this repayment fund that's referenced in the second to last whereas, but also commonly what happens to schools is all of a sudden they're told they have less money in their budget. Schools are spending money throughout the year on various things, professional development, texts, books, all kinds of things, and per session for teachers to do things like do various things outside of the regular school day. And what happens is that money is all of a sudden gone. So the thing is that all we're trying to say is that in this rough environment, rough time we're living in, when teachers and staff need to know that they're going to be coming to buildings, we just want the budgets that people are given to stay the same. So that would be what we're asking for. And the point of information that that you're asking for in terms of what happens with what Colin's talking about, perhaps I can just say in 31 years of teaching the public schools, and helping start 3 schools and being an administrator in one of them, I've never once seen the DOE all of a sudden say, here's more money. So the money is not going to all of a sudden just be moved to another school. It doesn't happen. You get more money if you write a grant proposal or things like that. But they don't all of a sudden go, you know what, we got some money and we want to give it to you guys. It doesn't happen. So it's not going to get moved to some other school. It's just going to be, it's because the coffers are lower than they ought to be because of taxation right now. So it's not like it's going to benefit any.
You would agree that funding formulas benefit more affluent schools than more impoverished schools. Would you agree with that?
Well, so here's, Colin, I would like to address that because this is a really important thing to address. While you could make the assumption, because it would be an assumption, that it's the wealthier schools that have had more attrition, because there are other reasons that people pulled out of coming to the school. safety being one of them, and parents not being able to get their children to school because they have lost their jobs. So what we're seeing is something much more complex than one could assume really easily. So what the point of this resolution is, and it's specific, is that no school, no principal should be forced. 90% of what this funding goes for is teachers and support staff. And so in a time where we arguably have a mental health crisis due to the pandemic that is unprecedented, to be dropping guidance counselors in the middle of the year because these schools have to pay back the DOE, we feel would be not recommended. And that we have to give all schools right now, at all levels, all demographics, all levels of learners, everyone, we have to give them the opportunity for as much normalcy and continuity as we possibly can. They are short on resources anyway.
And
This is not the time to be cutting them back.
Just to be clear, New York City is very unique in that all the money's collected, all the money's divided per student by school's number. How many kids you have in your school is what your budget's based on. Unlike the suburbs where you have a wealthy suburb with property taxes living next door to a suburb not as wealthy, those school districts will have radically different funding formulas. In New York City, the funding formula for a school in a so-called affluent community versus a school a community without as much resources, the amount of money spent on each kid is exactly the same.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Mitch, Judith,
With the exception of special ed.
Yes, and special ed. You're right.
Well, each special ed kid gets about $900.
I don't understand what.
Stop jumping in. Mariama, you may get muted if you're not careful. Okay, hands were up. Mitch,
Sorry, that just wasn't correct about the students, so I just had to jump in.
No jumping. Put your hand up. Mitch, Judith, Bruce, go.
Okay, actually, Tricia just kind of mentioned the point that I wanted to mention, so I'll be like 1 second. The whereas to kind of focus on what Colin was worried about or concerned about, excuse me, the more than 90% of the fair student funding to pay salaries, I think it would be unethical, where you hire people before the school year. Let's say you have a class of 30 students, and then during the year, now you have attrition, now you have 23, 24 students. You can't just fire people during the year, because that's totally unethical above everything, whether it's a rich school or a poor school. So I think just for that reason alone, I support this 100%.
Thank you. Judith, you're next. Mitch, put down your hand, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to make a similar point. Like, we're not talking about surplus. We're basically talking about monies that have already been spent or at the very least committed. So what we don't want to do is ask the schools to figure out ways to get money back to the DOE that's already been spent. So I don't think this is an issue of surplus. I think it's just an issue of following through on, commitments and salaries that need to get paid.
Perfect. Okay, Mariama. Yes. Oh, no, you're after Bruce. I see Bruce's hand before yours. Bruce, go.
Yeah, I'm confused. I'll grant you that I took a tuna fish sandwich break, but in the meantime, I don't see this resolution in our packet. All I see on the screen are 3 whereases and a resolve. It sounds like a very complicated matter. I want to make sure that whatever this resolution posits is equitable to both rich and poor.
It is equitable. That's why you stepped out. You missed it on your tuna break. That's why it's up there. It is equitable. We are asking for all schools, not for the DOE to be pulling money out of them.
Where is the full resolution?
It should be there. But
again, last 3 whereases.
But where is the rest of it?
It should be in your packet.
I don't.
And it is.
It's in my
Bruce,
packet.
Okay.
Bruce, look in the link. It's in the chat. It's the last resolution. It is there.
I checked.
If you have, it's there. I'm promising.
It's under land use on the full. Was it
No.
land use? Oh.
Bruce,
Okay.
put yourself on mute.
Yeah.
Go back in. Look at youth and ed. Okay. Mariama, you're next.
Yes, I just wanted to be clear since I did jump in, maybe it didn't make sense. But special ed students are allocated additional funds per child. And special ed parents aren't always told, but they also have an option of signing off for state Medicaid to pay back a portion of the money that the state DOE has spent on their child in special ed. So that's a way that the school can recoup funds that, for whatever reason, isn't always made clear to parents. That is another way to recoup money back.
Right, but a parent has to agree to allow their records to be released.
Correct.
And not every parent does that. All right, but Mariama, much to Colin's point, and the reason why the session came up, that funding paradigm for those students applies whatever school they're in, correct?
Yes, correct.
I just wanted to be, that's what I wanted to say. I had my hand up for that. Like,
Jeff, I was coming to you. No interrupting. I was coming to you next. You're the last one with your hand up. Jeff, go.
I just want to clarify that what I said stands. This funding model is, as I named, and every school, whether it's in a so-called wealthy neighborhood or a not wealthy neighborhood, the funding model for a special ed student is exactly the same. And the percents of numbers are often roughly the same as well. So of kids that are special ed. So that's all.
Tammy, can
Awesome.
I add one thing that I think some people haven't read on the
Nope, because you've already gone. You have to wait. There are other hands up first. Sorry, Mitch.
Yes, ma'am.
Robert's rules.
Yes, ma'am.
Francis, you're next.
My question is to the committee on something else, and I just wanted to put it out there so you don't cut me off before you end. Okay, I just have a question for the committee afterwards.
That's not related to this resolution. You can ask it afterwards because I have two things for new business. Okay.
Right, okay.
Now, Bruce, your hand is up still. Do you have any other questions after you reviewed the resolution?
Sorry, I'll put my hand down. I'm still confused about where to go on this, but I'll.
Okay, you can be last call.
Are we ready to call that to question yet, Tammy?
Thank you, Alice. I'll take that. Mitch, if you don't have any other questions.
Well, I'll second it. I wanted to point one thing out because other people still seems to be confused about something that is obvious here. If everybody just looks at the therefore be resolved, it says amnesty for all school deficits, then as well as providing additional funding for students living in poverty and temporary housing. So not only does it cover what Tricia and Jeff was saying, it also goes further in answering other people's concerns, rightly so. I don't.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you. I agree with you.
Okay.
I'm glad you read the therefore be results of people. Exactly. Alice called. Susan seconded. Brittany, it's a roll call, and let's go.
Awesome. Emma Russo.
Abstain.
I'm sorry, blank.
Blank, yes.
Brown Kennedy.
Brown Kennedy, yes.
Herman.
Darman, he's still reading.
Okay. Cassell.
Cassell, yes.
Thanks. Chang.
Chang votes yes.
Oops, I think I cut you off from Vicky under C for Cameron. Sorry. Sorry, Vicky.
No
Okay,
worries.
Cameron. Cameron, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Charkoudian.
Charkoudian votes yes.
Thanks. Cole.
Cole votes yes.
Curtis.
Curtis votes yes.
I'm coming back to Bruce. Flynn.
Brinker votes yes.
Friedman.
Friedman, yes.
Roman.
Roman, yes.
Galloway.
Galloway, yes.
Goldstein.
Goldstein, yes.
Gupta. Gupta. Okay. James.
James, yes.
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 Joyce, yes.
Kay,
Kay, yes.
Cannell,
Cannell, yes.
Kettering,
Kettering, yes.
Capel.
You're unmuted.
Okay, I'll come back to him. Lamoury. Lerner.
Yes.
Lewinson.
Lewinson, yes.
Mahoney.
Mahoney, yes.
McHugh.
McHugh, yes.
Meltzer.
Oh, definitely yes.
Halsky.
Yes.
I think I can say yes.
No, I think you have to recuse.
No, both
Recuse.
you. Yeah, sorry, Mahalski has to recuse as well.
Recuse.
Okay, got it. Mahalski and Myhawk are now recusals. Moore.
Yes.
Schneck.
Yes.
Star, yes.
Sung.
Sung, yes.
Wade, yes. Weinstock.
Yes.
Z.
Yes.
Zelter. Zelter.
Zelter, yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Airman.
Airman, yes.
Do we have Gupta?
Excuse.
Okay. And Sung was a yes, right? Can you just say that again? If so. Sung. Okay.
Sung was a yes.
A yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's it. That's
Did
everyone.
you get Joe Capel?
Oh,
He's muted.
No,
He's
Joel.
able to speak.
Joel.
Yeah, I vote yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So awesome. Trisha, I think that's it. Francis, you had one comment you
question?
wanted to make? Yep.
Yeah, I have a question for Tricia. I just wanted to know if the committee was still exploring the issue of cell phone towers in the community next to schools.
You know, we did resolve the one that was next to Peck Slip. But it's so funny you're asking about this, Francis, because this came up twice today, where people are talking about the effects of cell towers and radiation in general.
Right.
So I'm going to take it on. I'm going to take it on this month and see what I can find out. But that one was resolved. It was below what was required to take action on at that particular location.
All right. Well, I'm going to send you an email offline about something.
Okay, great. I'm into it.
Okay.
And Tricia and Francis, please feel free to also include the EPC committee. We're happy to look at it also jointly if that would be of help.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty shocking.
Okay,
So I
sure.
will.
Sure. Okay.
That sounds like Kathy.
Would y'all mind including me on that?
Brittany, that's Kathy saying she voted yes with her echoes from her air conditioner. Sorry.
Okay, I'll change it.
All right.
Thank you.
I have two things for new business, which are super, super exciting. So I hope everybody is encouraged and enthused by this. First, there is a rapid test trucks that look like they will be rolling out in Battery Park City. Stay tuned. As soon as I have full notes on it, I'm happy to share it. But what we have thus far is it is $25. They'll be open during business hours, and it is a, they do not accept insurance as far as I know, but they're 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and it'll be rapid tests, and it's a big honking truck. You'll see them. So that's an interest. Yes.
3 of them.
3 of them.
3 of them. There's going to be one in the north and one way south. There'll be 3, and yes, what you said was accurate. Confirmed to Justine and I.
Perfect. So I think the one that's way south is going to be down by Pier A, then one middle. But as soon as we have more details, we'll let you know. Pat Moore, I see your hand up. Is it about that?
No, I did want to ask Tricia. I hadn't heard anything about, this may not be the appropriate time, but I hadn't heard anything about the street closure at the new school on Greenwich Street, Memorial Street, going west. You never continued the conversation.
Yeah. We'll take that conversation up again. Let's set up a call with Betty, you, me, and Tricia. All right, and Lucian. Jill Goodkind, your hand's up. Question?
Oh, yeah. The truck for testing is active now at the location on the Esplanade between Gateway and Brookfield Place.
Perfect. Thank you. And then lastly, excited to announce that we are the new president who has stepped in, Dr. Anthony Monroe at BMCC, has his feet firmly on the ground, and we have now been in touch with their Equity and Inclusion Task Force, which is what we were hoping to do a public forum on race and equity between BMCC and the community board, because they are one of the most diverse organizations and largest in our neighborhood. So I am excited to announce that we hopefully have been back in touch with them, and we are going to meet with their co-chairs of their task force with Pat Moore, myself, and the office to see what we can get hooked up and going for a series of topics of discussion for 2021 and 2022, because we all know that nothing changes in a day and everything is local. So that is my new business announcement.
And can we go?
It'll be a whole public forum. And if this your question, is this a motion to adjourn?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is a motion to adjourn. I'm leaving.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. It's 9:22. It's been a great meeting, 2 hours and 22 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 hours and no, 3 hours.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody.
Bye, guys. Bye, everybody. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Okay, about the cell phone thing, is anybody on about the cell phone thing?
You can stay on. Let's stop the